Kantai mantunan yagi toru ilugar para honra para gloria abiba islasen para honra para gloria abiba islasen para Gitodu y tempo y paz para ita tan gini langit na bendición contra y peligro na fan sa fuham tus protegis languam contra y peligro na fan sa fuham tus protegis languam.
Be healthy. Be informed with ITD.
Engaging microphones. Hey, good morning, Guam. Viva Lunes. Happy Monday. 6:21. Hope you had a great weekend. And good morning on you. It's the KUAM News Takeover, Guam's favorite. A little ditty we call Containing COVID. Good morning, Sabrina.
Good morning.
How was your weekend? What was the most eventful thing you did this weekend?
Slept. That's eventful for me.
Yeah, you were hibernating.
Yes, I was. You woke me up in my hibernation.
I called her yesterday. She was like, I'm like, it's 10 a.m. What's going on? The show is proudly sponsored by Cabos Insurance, Ambrose Inc., IT&E, Coast 360, and the Bank of Guam. So many great ways to catch the show. That was Amani and Mixplate with Hogu. Hogu next, nice, 637-0094. Real information, real time, as we try and jam-pack as much as we can into this 4 hours of multimedia broadcast extravaganza. And there's definitely a lot to talk about that happened over the weekend. Another, I don't know what we're calling it. Are we calling it a Mullard or?
Which one?
The Department of Labor.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Oh, Lordy. So, yeah, we'll talk about that, but I'm pretty sure you guys know by now that, as promised, they put the application out for the PUA and the FPUC Those of you guys who follow the show know that, Dave Delasola, the labor director, is a regular guest on the program here because people want to know what's going on with this unemployment. They've been waiting far too long for whatever reason, whether it's a hang up on the federal side or, we've had our share of local issues. So they launched the application on the DOL website over the weekend. And because people are so desperate to apply for this unemployment, rightfully so, people have been monitoring their website because the government of Guam and the administration and the Department of Labor have all been saying that, well, Dave said the application was going to be up by the end of the week.
That's right. That's right. And then the governor reiterated that during her press conference on Friday. And so, yes, it is online, but no, don't apply yet.
This was just, man, I almost feel for them. Almost, but
they're trying.
They can't get out of their own way.
Yeah.
So what ended up happening was people saw the application was online. They started applying because they were told that the application was going to be online. And after that thing being online for about, I want to say 6-8 hours, most of the day on a Saturday, they then put out a release that said, hey, the application's online, but don't apply yet. Do not apply. Look, but don't touch. Because they said that they were still, what was it? Was it beta testing or?
It was a soft launch to work out some
That's
of the
a new one
bugs.
I heard. Sound like a porn or something. Join us for the soft
Did
launch.
someone say software?
There we go.
Okay,
Who's
yeah.
here?
Okay,
wow.
now, yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning, Bree and Chris and everybody out there. Okay, the press release in my 2 decades of doing this kind of work, that was one of the more puzzling press releases I've ever read. Not saying that it was wrong, but they were basically like, we've soft launched it. It's up, however, because it's still buggy, we don't recommend people
Apply.
use it with great confidence, and that's no knock. I know it's a third-party product, and integrating those kind of stuff with like systems, local governments across the country are using it.
Can
Those
we
things
get
are very
an-
often not easy.
Do we have an interpreter?
Okay. Okay, but basically the one thing that really impressed upon me as a software guy is that they put this, as you said, they put the application online, but basically with the intent of everybody, okay, we'll figure it out, but don't use it yet. There's 2 entities in the world that you don't want finding out that software is live because everybody else is going to know about it. It's Google and me. Everybody's gonna know because I got the biggest mouth in tech, right?
Right,
I was,
right.
hey, if it's on, I was, hey, it's up, go use it. It's super cool and everything, but, but I mean, they're getting there. We're not knocking Dave and we're not knocking DOL and everything like that. Not the greatest product launch that's ever been done, but certainly, we are on our way. And they said that the bugs hopefully will be resolved. But
But
here's where we are.
The issue is a lot of people applied over the weekend.
Yeah, and from what I understand, it is a very, very tedious process. They ask a lot of questions.
Right. Takes about 40 minutes is what David said. But people, if you see in our comments, people have applied and they've submitted their application. So we'll see. We'll see. But we tried to get Dave on the show this morning. Unfortunately, during that press release they had put out, they said, a formal announcement is coming on Monday. Which, again, it just goes back to these guys announcing stuff and not being sure that it's ready to roll. And then dealing with the backlash. So I don't know if that's communications or messaging or they just don't got their stuff together. Because I would think, you told everyone it was going to be ready. And so people were anticipating it being ready. And when they saw it, I don't know, if I see an application I've been waiting months for on a website that I'm told it was going to pop up on, probably I'm going to use that thing and apply.
Okay, biggest question I have is for the people that did apply, even if it was in beta, even if it was soft launched, if it was buggy, whatever like that, for the people that did actually go through the process and fill out the online form and then apply, my biggest question is, do they have to redo it? Will that data be saved?
Do.
So they do. Okay, they have to. Wow.
Well, yeah, on that note, let's get right into news here. We just kind of want to open with that big... The kids call it a WTF moment, but I was just like, this is a head scratcher. Whoa. So, let's dive into the day's COVID-19 headlines here, as we always do to start the show from the KUAM News team. Good morning, Sabrina Salas-Mantanani.
Half a day, here's what's making island news. The latest count of COVID-19 cases on Guam stands at 173. Only one test returned positive over the weekend. The Department of Labor's online application form for the PUA is live, but DOL says don't file a claim just yet. According to a media release, they are conducting a soft launch of the online application and using it to work out remaining bugs in the program. DOL is still setting up the main processing center. Applications filed prior to the formal launch of the online program may result in errors that could delay the qualification process. An official announcement is expected to be made today. As reported, even after you apply online, the vetting process could take up to 21 days, but DOL Director David De La Sola says he's working to shorten that time frame. Gov Guam officially reopens today. Some employees will be allowed to telework, and the governor's COVID Category 3 differential pay program also cuts off today. Also effective today, all returning residents flying into Guam will be allowed to home quarantine. Here's more from the governor's announcements.
Updated quarantine protocol effective Monday, June 1st. We will be implementing a new protocol for the quarantine of travelers into Guam. Current returning and intended residents of Guam, persons who are essential healthcare or other essential workers, or persons who have traveled to Guam because of an emergency or a personal hardship situation may be allowed to complete their 14-day requirement for quarantine at their home residence or at their rental lodging location. They must also be able to verify their identification, and we will be accepting valid Guam IDs, a mayor's verification that you are a resident, or the individual can sign the declaration of residency upon arrival. Non-residents will still be subject to quarantine at the Gov Guam designated quarantine facilities. We will, however, also accept diagnostic specimen testing for the non-residents, such as PCR, with samples taken at most 1 week prior to arrival. And this is to allow them then to self-quarantine at their rental lodging.
You can go to the Department of Public Health's website for more information. Last week on our show, we had guests talking about the status of daycares opening and more than $6 million in CARES Act funding GovGuam has had since April. Public Health's Director Linda Pingo Denorsi and the governor provided an update at the recent briefing at Adelup.
However, the department is also in its final phase to issue out $6.4 million that is coming in from the CARES Act. And this $6.4 million will be inclusive not only of those 44 centers, the daycare centers that are covered already through our CCDF program, but it will include all the 47 licensed childcare facilities throughout the island. Now, what has had to happen is we have at the department have already submitted our plan, which is required to get it submitted through ACF, which is the Administration for Children and Families. It's a federal government. And this plan will provide us information to them as far as how we plan to pay the daycare centers, their consideration in terms of buying partitions or glasses or anything, the equipment or supplies for their daycare facility, and how they also will utilize the CARES Act funds to be in accordance with anything that they'll need. And this funding can also pay for personnel, their rent, their mortgages, any overhead costs affiliated with their daycare, whether it's power, water, and also equipment and supplies. And so right now, our staff are doing the final phase, which is just routing it to the AG. And once it is done, then it will be reviewed for legality and form. And from there, we already established the account, and that money has already arrived. And we're ready to disseminate and distribute those funds as soon as the AG approves that.
Ma'am, if I can just sort of re-clarify my question.
Can I just add something here also? as we move from PCOR 1 to PCOR 2 and to PCOR 3 and ultimately to PCOR 4, what we're saying, and what is being demonstrated is that our risk of exposure to this virus and our risk for increased community spread is decreasing and declining as we move from one phase to the other. And so one of the reasons that we didn't want to open daycare centers right away, we wanted to make sure that as we move from these phases, from these PCORs, that we are in an environment or in a period where we have less risk. And this is a way to protect the children of these daycare centers. And also, as you realize, and of course know, children are not very adherent to social distancing. They probably won't use their mask. And so it's hard to put those preventive measures in those centers. So the most safe time to open them up is in the time where we have less coronavirus in our community and we have less risk, in order for us to feel safe and comfortable that our children will be protected in those daycare centers, because it's a congregate place.
Senators go into session today. Last Friday, several hearings were held on multiple bills to address the controversial issue of double pay for frontline workers. Nestor Lecanto reports.
All of the bills seek to compensate essential GovGuam employees who were required to work while others were paid who stayed home. The first bill heard was by Vice Speaker Talina Nelson.
They went out there willingly to care for us, to care for the people of Guam, to provide medical attention, to respond to ailments and illnesses risking their exposure, and also the possible contraction to their family members.
The other measures heard today offered the same rationale, with variations on the amount and type of compensation. But representing the Women's Chamber of Commerce was Chairperson Holly Rustick, who said for every government worker called to duty, there were also private sector nurses, store clerks, food service workers, and more also on the front lines.
None of these people who have clearly risked their lives and their health of that or their family in order to provide our people with much needed care, sustenance, and services will be receiving double pay.
She also raised the issue of affordability, saying the bills will pose severe financial implications for GovGuam, even as senators themselves were questioning how much or even if the extra compensation can be covered by federal emergency funds.
What good is giving government employees double time for a month of hours worked when the result may very well be that those same employees will have to be furloughed for 1 or 2 days a week if the legislation causes the government to run out of money?
The other bills by Speaker Tina Barnes and Senator Joe San Augustine have undergone public hearings and can be moved on the floor for consideration at the next legislative session. For Guam's News Network, I'm Nestor Lecanto.
Public Health, meanwhile, kicks off a series of community testing in various villages throughout the island. This week's testing dates and locations include Wednesday at the Yigo Gym, Thursday in Dededo at the Gora Senior Public Housing, and Friday in Sinahanya at the mayor's office. Democrat Bill Kenga is the mayor-elect for the village of Jotnya. He received 42% of the votes cast during Saturday's special election. Kenga received a total of 641 votes of the total 1,534 ballots cast. The results still need to be certified by the Guam Election Commission. The special election was held to fill the vacancy left by the resignation of former Mayor Jesse Bloss. Earlier this year, Bloss pled guilty to extortion charges for allowing drug trafficking through Jotnya mailboxes. He's scheduled to be sentenced in August. Kenga, in the meantime, defeated a field of 5 other candidates that were vying for the position. Kenga says he's excited and thanks all of his supporters for believing in him. Quote, "I will work to build a better Jotnya." In regional news, we have Tomas Manglotnya, who is standing by on the phone with the very latest. Tomas. Hi, Tomas. Are you there? Okay, we'll get back to Tomas in a bit. But first, let's go to national news, where protests, some of them violent, are... Okay, let's go back to the CNMI. We have him back on the line. Thanks, Chris. Tomas. All right. Moving on. In national news, protests, some of them violent, are going on across the country as anger spills over the death of George Floyd. The handcuffed man died during a police encounter in Minneapolis this past week. Michael George has the latest from Minneapolis.
Some American cities look like war zones as protesters went on a rampage, smashing windows and vandalizing police cruisers. From New York to Los Angeles, demonstrators are taking to the streets in more than a dozen U.S. cities. Some of the protests turned violent. In Seattle, a police vehicle was torched, and windows of this cheesecake factory were smashed in. Police sprayed tear gas on protesters in Minneapolis who defied their curfew. Earlier, the governor activated Minnesota's full National Guard to keep the peace. Protesters in Los Angeles set police vehicles on fire and looted an Apple store. And this restaurant, where dozens of people grabbed whatever they could get their hands on.
We literally want to be heard. We don't want to meet violence with violence. That's not what my people do.
In nearby Beverly Hills, workers hurriedly boarded up storefronts on the world-famous Rodeo Drive before people started hurling objects at police. Officers fired tear gas to break up the crowd. And for the second straight night, police in Washington, D.C. held off angry mobs. University of Southern California law professor Jody Armour says what we're seeing is bigger than what happened to George Floyd.
There was a convergence of a lot of different cases at this moment that I think has raised a lot of public awareness and made the public especially sensitive at this.
Okay, I think we're having some technical difficulties. And now let's try to go to Tomas. And no, we're not going to go to Tomas. In your Banking 671 report, starting today, the Bank of Guam branches, including in the CNMI, will be adding new accounts and loan originations at all open locations. For Guam, these services are by appointment only. To make an appointment, customers can email appointments@bankofguam.com or contact the bank through any of their customer support channels for scheduling needs. Drive-through services will still be limited. According to Bank of Guam's president and chief executive officer, Joaquin Cook, quote, "We continue to prioritize the safety and health of our employees and customers as a key determinant of how we can prudently operate while exercising our responsibilities under local restrictions." Meanwhile, with the Guam Bankers Association is encouraging residents who plan to file for pandemic unemployment assistance to consider opting for direct deposit. To opt in, you're urged to take the following steps: open a deposit account with your preferred bank, collect necessary account information, be prepared to provide your account number and your bank's routing number, and visit DOL's online portal hireguam.com to apply for assistance once they begin to officially accept applications. And that is your Banking 671 report, brought to you by the Bank of Guam and Coast 360.
All right, let's try this again and go to Tomas in the CNMI. Tomas, are you there? Okay. I'm going to take a break and figure out the phone system. Obviously, it's going to be very hard to do a multimedia show with no phone line. I mean, I could just talk for 4 hours, trust me.
Whoa!
I was gonna say you are challenged to be short-winded. That's the first I've ever heard of that. Yeah, okay. I've got a solution. Zoom.
Let's let you talk.
Zoom.
We can do Zoom.
Right.
We can do anything.
We could, yeah.
Except for get this phone line.
Hey, I'm about to bust out the duct tape and the hammer.
Yeah.
641 again. The show proudly brought to you by Cowboys Insurance, Ambrose Inc., ITNE. Coast 360 and the Bank of Guam. It's the KUM News Takeover, Guam's favorite. Good morning.
Keeping you informed, KUAM News brings you Banking 671, brought to you by the Bank of Guam, the People's Bank, and Coast 360 Federal Credit Union. Together, we thrive.
KUAM News COVID-19 Takeover on I-94 FM is presented locally by Ambrose Inc.
GU Self-Storage, conveniently located near the Harmon McDonald's. We offer affordable rates, online payments, and auto bill pay for your convenience. Plus gate access daily from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Call us today at 648-7867 for more information. We hope that you and your loved ones are safe and healthy during the COVID-19 pandemic. It has been a challenging time for all, but now, more than ever, our cancer patients and caregivers need us. Although we are apart, we stand united in the fight against cancer. The American Cancer Society Guam is excited to announce our first virtual Relay for Life. Join us on Saturday, June 27th at 6:30 p.m. on KUAM TV 8, as well as on I-94 FM and streaming on KUAM News digital platforms. Cancer does not stop, and neither can we. On June 27th, let's celebrate together and fight cancer. Visit relayforlife.org/GuamGU to find out how you can participate in the 2020 virtual Relay for Life Guam.
Be healthy. Be informed with ITD.
Calling all graduating seniors. Join us by showing your class pride in the celebration caravan you deserve through the island's major thoroughfares. KUAM and its partners want to recognize your accomplishments and help celebrate this pivotal moment in your lives. To participate, email promotions@kuam.com and let's get this show on the road. Special thanks to ABC Stores Guam and The Dungeon.
It's not always easy trying something new. Sometimes you have to help your loved ones along. Nana is so used to her weekly trips to the bank that going online can be a little scary for her. But her grandson knows that banking online is safer and easier. So he's teaching her how to get started using Bank of Guam's online banking videos. Teaching is one way to show our loved ones we care. Keep your family safe at home and show them how to bank online. Find easy-to-use online banking tutorials at bankofguam.com or on our Instagram and Facebook pages. Bank of Guam, member FDIC.
Keeping you informed, KUAM News brings you Banking 671, brought to you by the Bank of Guam, the People's Bank, and Coast 360 Federal Credit Union. Together, we thrive.
KUAM News COVID-19 takeover on
6:45. Tomas, are you there?
Good morning.
Hey. Hallelujah. I didn't even do anything. We just and one of my old school Filipino engineers way back in my radio days say, hey, when in doubt, reboot. So we rebooted 10 times, and now we got you. Okay, so with the very latest from the NMI, Tomas Maglotnia. Go ahead, Tomas.
All right, good morning, James Smith. Here's the latest making news in the Northern Marianas. CHCC CEO Esther Muña talks about widening community-based testing initiative across Saipan, Tinian, and Rota. She spoke to media at a briefing earlier last week. Take a listen.
We've actually done some community outreach as well. We're working with the home health services already. Looking at their clients, their patients that they're seeing, and helping them out, making sure that they are able to test those and their families. So it's already, again, it is considered a community-based testing by going out there and making that outreach, and we will continue to do that. As we're also looking at, I've reached out to the churches to try to see if they are willing to open their doors, or at least for us to be there to open it to their congregation. So those are things that are ongoing already, in addition to some of the things that we're planning on. I mean, I just want to mention that, while all of this is happening, for example, in Tinian and Rota, we've already decided that we were going to go ahead and have it at the health center anyway, because as we noticed, the numbers are trickling down, and we want to make sure that anyway it's always going to be available. As the governor had mentioned, this is here. We have it, and if somebody wants to get tested, we will test them.
And in more COVID news, CHCC issues guidance for restaurant reopening over the weekend. Some highlights include a limit to occupancy of 25% of the original permitted limit. They require that patrons make reservations to control volume and maintain records of one point of contact for each party reservation for contact tracing purposes. The new guidelines also list out that parties must be limited to no more than 4 people that are dining together, All parties must remain at least 6 feet apart. And lastly, they ensure that all staff complete online serve-safe training specific to COVID-19 transmission reduction within 1 week of offering restaurant dine-in services. The Bureau of Environmental Health, the governor writes, may order an establishment to close if it is found to be non-compliant. And more news from the CNMI governor's office, the NAP received a waiver to exclude stimulus payments as a resource. The Secretary of Community and Cultural Affairs, Robert Hunter, announced that the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Food and Nutrition Service has granted the CNMI's request for a waiver to exclude the treatment of stimulus payments as resources for CNMI Nutrition Assistance Program participants. As a reconsideration, the CNMI NAP office sought a waiver from the USDA FNS Western Region Office to exclude stimulus payments from the resources reporting requirement. And beginning today, June 1st, the CHCC COVID-19 info line is reducing the number of phone lines available and will no longer be available on weekends. The new operating hours and contact numbers will be 285-1352, 285-1672. Again, that's if you're in the CNMI. Those new numbers for the COVID-19 info line for the CNMI's Commonwealth Healthcare Corporation is now Monday to Friday from 7:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. And wanted to provide the viewers listening in and watching the Facebook live stream the latest numbers from the CHCC, some updated numbers over the weekend. The confirmed amount of COVID-19 cases in the CNMI remains at 22. Number of persons released from quarantine, 526, with 2 deaths of the total confirmed COVID cases. And the cumulative number of recovered cases has increased by 2. So we now have 15 recovered cases in the CNMI. And we have updated numbers from the community-based testing initiative. The CNMI has tested over 6,000 of its residents across Saipan, Tinian, and Rota. On Saipan, they've tested 5,448 people. On Tinian, 349 people. And on Rota, 376 people. Bring Chris, that's the latest here in the Northern Marianas.
All right. Thanks a lot, Tomas.
Thank you, Tomas.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. All right. Let's keep it on the phones here and head up to Yigo for our weekly check-in with Mayor Rudy Matanani. Mayor, good morning.
Hi, Mayor.
Morning, Chris.
What's
Sabrina?
Good morning.
What's the latest from Yigo?
Well, we're still trying to catch the pig, and we've been catching deer. And still a lot of problems about identifying, the positive of the coronavirus here in Yigo. I would like to know exactly where these people are. I don't even know their names. I can keep pretty good secrets. Most especially if it has to do with the safety of the people of Yigo and the island.
Right, I know that when we saw that spike, I think it was 11, during one of the press conferences, I want to say it was Public Health Director Linda DeNorsi, she indicated that she had gave you a call.
Yes, she gave me a call before she was interviewed a week and a half ago.
And that was for the 11, right? That spike?
Yes. And I know it's somewhere around almost the middle of Yigo. These kind of things we don't want to really say out in the public where it's at. It's just mixed feelings on as far as the concerns of the safety of the people.
Mm-hmm.
But still, I think that certain leaders like the mayor should know, about what's going on with their constituents, so we can do as much as possible, to keep them safe and, the positive people and also the people surrounding the areas where they're located.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what area it is, Mayor?
Middle of Yigo.
Oh, sorry.
Somewhere around Route 15 and Marianas Terrace. But, I keep hearing that it's somewhere else. And I hope that Mrs. DeNorsi, is listening, and maybe she can give us more details about that, because it's all up in the air.
Marianas Terrace and Route 15. Okay.
Yeah.
Before Gajanero Road or after Gajanero Road?
It's just around Gajanero Road.
Then you might as well drop us the pin, Mayor.
Pardon me? You know, it always feels good, you know, to know what really is happening, you know. It kind of builds confidence and gives the person responsible, you know.
Did the public health director say that it was connected to any sort of a barbecue or a party?
Yes, that's one of them.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually the one I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm. Did she say it was affiliated with any religious group?
No, she didn't say that.
Just that there was some sort of a party that happened.
What kind of party, Mayor?
A barbecue. I don't even know what kind of party it was, Chris. I'm very sorry. You know, sometimes mayors aren't privy to those kind of information. Even though I think we really should.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when we get that information, you know, we can. I'm willing to work with the authorities I need to work with, you know. But when they keep me, you know, out of the loop, it kind of makes it look bad for our village. You know, when their leader don't know what's happening and where it's happening at. You know, that was one of my concerns. You know, when that first started, there was about maybe a month before I knew that there was another, the one that you're talking about, Sabrina. You know, they don't. And like I said, you know, in previous interviews, I hope that they got a trick up their sleeves, you know, and I hope that the people that are involved are safe with those kind of whatever you want to call it, you know, those kind of secured techniques.
So the former mayor of Chico, Bob Lizama, I thought he was like the liaison with the governor's office and the mayor's council of Guam. You haven't been able to check him and ask him, hey, what's up? Can you get the governor to be a little more transparent here?
You know, he comes to before the COVID-19. He's always in the meetings, and you know that's. You know, Sabrina, I hate to say this, that's his job. You know, he's supposed to let everybody know that should know. And I know Bob, you know, and he knows that I should know, but he doesn't give me a call, or at least if he doesn't want to talk to me, call the office and let the office know. And maybe give me a number and I'll call and I'll try to find out myself.
Yeah, Mayor, this is something that a lot of your colleagues on the Mayor's Council have been complaining about since the start of COVID.
And, you know, I realized that Robert Lizama has a boss, and I don't know what kind of communication they have about certain things as important as this. And, you know, I understand, you know, because there's a lot of things that they're doing if they forget, but they must hear things, conversations that, you know, people that should have the conversations, and that's exactly what we're doing. And, you know, I wish that somebody in the front office is listening, and maybe Robert or the governor forgot that there's a mayor in Yigo, and that they should think that the mayor should know about what's going on. Because if it has nothing to do with the safety of the people, I really don't care about knowing about these things. I got a lot of problems in Yigo that I have to take care of, let alone, you know, something as important as this, that people are keeping it away from us.
Mayor, what about your village over the weekend, right? It seems like we're gunning it for the reopening. What are the people of Yigo doing? Are they having the big gatherings? Are they is it back to normal in your village or what?
You know, it looks that way. But, you know, Chris, Sabrina, I want to emphasize, you know, the importance about this animal that's roaming around the island, we don't want to mess with it, and we don't want to lift all these restrictions too fast. Right now, we've got everything to gain, but if we should, and these things are new, and we make mistakes, so it's better to caution on the safe side, and just slowly start opening, because I don't know how, and Jigo's going to start testing on the 3rd, which is Wednesday, up at the gym, and it's going to be a drive-through. But every village on this island should be tested, and that's not. We don't even know if we're doing the right thing, because this is the first time we've ever faced something as bad as this. But it's better that everybody gets tested and we know where we stand, because that would give us kind of an idea of how to move forward with this.
Right.
Because if we pick up the restrictions too early, that might be the worst thing we can ever do. And like I said, there's everything to gain and nothing to lose, to slowly and be careful about what you lift here, because we don't even know who's carrying it. And as far as we're concerned, maybe every 2 weeks they find, and I don't know what the exact statistics are, but I'm talking about the same thing. There might be a lot of people out there infected. They're just kind of, look at what happened when they mentioned that they found 11. We didn't know anything about that. We don't even know if there's a lot of infected people here in Yigo, Dedido. Yigo and Dedido is the most populated village on the island, and it's dangerous. There's probably a lot of people that have this, but thank God they're not roaming around and going to parties or stuff like that. I have a first cousin that passed away. We have rosaries, at their house, but we try to follow as much as we can what we can do to prevent any infection. We sanitize, we keep the distance. When we set up the chairs, there's 6 feet away every chair. But I told my nephews, we have a lot of families that live together, and sometimes sometimes they laugh about it. I have a nephew that has about maybe 4 kids and a lot of grands. So those family can stick together, but we try as much as we can, because we don't want to cause any problems that we have already, to try to infect anybody that comes to the rosary. We try our very, very best to keep the distance, to follow the rules, wash our hands, and all that good stuff to help prevent from spreading the disease.
Good job, Mayor. It's good to lead by example.
I'm trying, and I tell my niece and nephews, to try to spread the word, be leaders in your own way, and let everybody know that this is what we're doing, because this is very important. We're not messing around with something that we can see. We're messing around with something that is going around, and we don't know if they're right next to us. So we have to do our part and try to be safe because of everybody that we care for.
Right on. So your message, Mayor: be safe, be careful, observe the distance, and wash your hands. Right?
Yes.
Okay.
And always ask questions, because I know a lot of things about this, but I keep asking questions, to better my knowledge and to better, lead the people in the village of Yigo. And the whole island for that matter.
Yeah, hey, asking questions, that's kind of what we do, Mayor. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And if there's anything, Chris, that you know that I don't know, please just call me up anytime.
If there's anything that I know that you don't know, I'll be sure to let you know.
Well, for the benefit of the whole island, we will share important things such
Amen.
as, trying to conquer this animal.
Right on. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, and I just want you guys to know, Sabrina, thank you for what you do. Chris, getting the messages out to the people, because we have to continue doing that.
Amen.
Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you, Mayor.
Are you going to be at the meeting? Is it this week?
Wednesday, right?
Yeah. Okay. All right.
All right. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, stop. Wash your hands.
Take care.
Okay.
Always.
All right.
Yigo Mayor Rudy Matanani there, again, with an impassioned plea for more transparency from the government of Guam, specifically public health and the administration. 702, let's keep it on the phones. We have the Guam Federation of Teachers Union Rep, Robert Koss, on the show. Good morning, Robert.
Good morning, Sabrina.
Hi.
Good morning, Chris.
Good. So what's the latest with this lawsuit and the double pay issue for you guys?
Right, so we're still on track with our lawsuit. The attorney is meeting individually with our 10 class representatives and getting the specific facts of their loss of pay. Some have lost overtime, night differential, double pay. Ours is a class action suit for failure to pay wages. So that's moving forward nicely. Maybe a little better than what we're seeing at the legislature. And of course, the Tom Fisher lawsuit seems there are some procedural issues he's going to be wrestling with.
Mm-hmm. What do you mean when you talk about the legislature?
Yeah, what do you mean, Robert?
Did you watch the hearings?
I was in contract negotiations, but I caught a little bit here and there.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I heard, the bills are going to go to the floor for a vote next week. There's 4 bills. And when you start dividing up the vote 4 ways, nobody wins. I was hoping the legislature take all 4 of those and sit down and come up with one bill and, the very best language that they could, their infinite wisdom.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that could still be a possibility when they go into session, take a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and whiz, bam, boom, you have a new bill.
Whiz, bam, boom.
That is, and that's what I want them to do. And so right now, I'm challenging them not to move forward with the vote and sit down and get it right. If they're just going to move forward with the vote, then Senator Therese Terlahi was correct in that it's all just a big scam, a charade, I think she called it. And, you put forward 4 bills, you vote on all of them, and nobody wins. Mm-hmm. And, that's kind of where I'm sitting right now with this process.
What'd you make of what'd you make of the hearings, Robert?
The public hearing?
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to remind the Chamber of Commerce that the people of Guam don't got money in their pocket. We're not going into their business and spending any. Mm-hmm. The Chamber of Commerce needs to support a strong economy. Mm-hmm. And that means people like you, Chris, you need money in your wallet to spend in their stores.
Mm-hmm. And that's the Women's Chamber of Commerce, just for clarification. Women's Chamber of Commerce, which one of the founding members is the governor herself.
Okay, well.
So you kind of would expect that would be their... I was a little surprised, though, but, it is what it is.
Yeah, but time and time again, they come out against employees who are the people of Guam, who are the patrons of their businesses, whether they need aircon repair, buy new shoes, buy a car. These are all the businesses of the chamber, and we need money, in order to do that. We need a strong economy to make their businesses stronger. So,
Robert, what did you make of the testimony that was, I saw a couple, and the gist of it seemed to be not that that's what the law says, that the frontline and essential employees are entitled to double pay, but the argument was being put forward that, hey, no matter what the law says, we just can't afford it. Mm-hmm. So what do you make of that kind of that narrative that, oh, man, we can't afford it, never mind what the law says?
Well, the federal funds, the CARES Act and those other funds, can be used for this and were intended to be used to cover the cost of responding to the COVID emergency, including personnel costs. But one thing that I think our governor loves to do is change the rules in the middle of the game. Now, the CARES Act fund was intended to ensure that did not happen. In order to use federal funds, it had to be pursuant to the rules that were in place when all of this started. You don't go in the middle of the game, change the rules so you get more money. The feds tried to protect us against that. So changing the rules in the middle of the game would probably prohibit the use of federal funds and create those problems. If they follow the law the way it's written, that would not be a problem because those laws have been in place since, I'll correct Tom Fisher, 1995.
I wanted to just follow up on something you said earlier, because initially I thought that the lawsuit was going to just deal strictly with the double pay issue, but you'd mentioned that there have been plaintiffs who haven't gotten overtime pay and hazard pay.
Right.
Is that right?
Remember when we raised some concerns about the Department of Corrections being 7 pay periods behind?
Yes, yes.
I'm told again they are still 7 pay periods behind. When we started this lawsuit, I started hearing things like, what about this kind of pay? What about that kind of pay? What about night differential? And nothing was being paid. And I was like, oh my God, all right, let's put it all in. Throw it all in. We're going to file a claim for wages because there's just so many things going on. That's just one way to try and capture everything. So yeah, we're looking at a claim for wages. There are various forms of unpaid wages out there, and it'd be really nice if we could just wrap it all up in one nice little package.
And is that one of the primary reasons why it would be going to the district court as opposed to the Superior Court?
Well, yeah, failure to pay minimum wage. Employees who work overtime and don't get paid overtime essentially work for free. And that's a violation of federal minimum wage jobs, or federal minimum wage laws, I'm sorry, the FLSA. So that's kind of one of the bases. But really, I leave that stuff up to the attorney to decide. We go see our attorney and we say, here's what we want to do. Can you do it? He says, yes, I can do it. And then we leave it up to the attorney to figure out how it gets done. It's nice to have Tom Fisher ahead of us because we can learn from his mistakes. I saw he's also thinking that maybe class action lawsuit is the way to go. So, we'll see what he does.
In your case, do you have any representatives from the AG's office that have fixed their name? To any of them?
Yes. No, not affixed their name, but have been calling and providing information and guidance and thoughts and ideas and things like that.
As for the 10 then that are going to be I guess named in the lawsuit, are they coming from a variety of government agencies or predominantly from one particular agency?
No, not just a variety of agencies, but also a variety of rules and regulations. Port Authority of Guam, who has their own rules. DOE, who has their own rules. DOA has their own rules. Hospital has their own rules. So we've got a lot of different rules to work with. They are substantially similar, but there are differences still.
I meant the employees that are their names that are going to be on this lawsuit. Are they from different agencies, or primarily from one particular agency, or?
All right, that's what I tried to answer.
Oh,
I'm sorry if I wasn't clear.
So from Port Authority, is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Both men, both women, all different agencies across the government of Guam.
So some from Autonomous.
Autonomous, Port Authority, yes,
yeah.
That would be correct.
Right on. Okay. Robert, any other? I know that.
I just want to say, how soon do you think? Do we looking at by the end of this week?
I have no idea when it's going to get filed. I think that we are benefiting, from not rushing into it, and I would much rather do it right than do it quickly and get dismissed. So, legislature still has a shot at this. I'm not going to hold my breath there. Tom Fisher, I'm going to wish him well, but again, since the very beginning, I had concerns about the way he went about it. So, he probably will not succeed. Don't want to curse him.
Well, you just did.
Aside from the issue of pay for Government of Guam employees, have there been any other issues that have been raised to the Guam Federation of Teachers?
Other concerns?
Yeah, aside from pay, like concerns about safety or exposure to COVID or anything like that?
You know, I've been talking with our guys at Solid Waste after a very comical interview on KUAM, where he put half of his employees on leave so that they could social distance 6 feet apart as they sorted every piece of trash on the island. And somehow that was going to make them safe from the virus. They were moving the napkins that the sick COVID people blew their nose on. I didn't understand that. So, yeah, I think we need to look at solid waste if they're getting 10% or nothing at all, and you know, see what we can do to help them with their safety. I think they've been overlooked, unsung hero in all of this. I'm really glad that people are out there taking our trash away and not letting it pile up. Not everybody has a pickup that can go take it themselves, you know.
All right, Robert. Thank you. Thanks. We'll check in a couple of days. Let us know the progress. You got my number. Shoot me a text.
All right. Thanks, Chris.
Okay,
Thank
Robert.
you.
Wash your hands.
Easy on me, huh?
Huh?
Oh, he was a little coy.
Yeah.
I said, take it easy on me.
Never.
I know, right?
All right. Wash your hands. 7:13. Hey, we'll take a little break. We're coming back with the minority leader of the Guam legislature for her weekly check-in from the Republicans down there at the Guam Congress Hall. It's the first of the month. Monday, June 1st, 7:13. Containing COVID continues next.
Try McDonald's.
Keeping you informed, KUAM News brings you Banking 671, brought to you by the Bank of Guam, the People's Bank, and Coast 360 Federal Credit Union. Together, we thrive.
KUAM News COVID-19 Takeover on I-94 FM is presented locally by Ambrose Inc.
GU Self-Storage, conveniently located near the Harmon McDonald's. We offer affordable rates, online payments, and auto bill pay for your convenience. Plus gate access daily from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Call us today at 648-7867 for more information. We hope that you and your loved ones are safe and healthy during the COVID-19 pandemic. It has been a challenging time for all, but now, more than ever, our cancer patients and caregivers need us. Although we are apart, we stand united in the fight against cancer. The American Cancer Society Guam is excited to announce our first virtual Relay for Life. Join us on Saturday, June 27th at 6:30 p.m. on KUAM TV 8, as well as on I-94 FM and streaming on KUAM News digital platforms. Cancer does not stop, and neither can we. On June 27th, let's celebrate together and fight cancer. Visit relayforlife.org/GuamGU to find out how you can participate in the 2020 virtual Relay for Life Guam.
Be healthy. Be informed with ITD.
Calling all graduating seniors. Join us by showing your class pride in the celebration caravan you deserve through the island's major thoroughfares. KUAM and its partners want to recognize your accomplishments and help celebrate this pivotal moment in your lives. To participate, email promotions@kuam.com and let's get this show on the road. Special thanks to ABC Stores Guam and The Dungeon.
Keeping you informed, KUAM News brings you Banking 671, brought to you by the Bank of Guam, the People's Bank, and Coast 360 Federal Credit Union. Together, we thrive.
KUAM News COVID-19 Takeover on I-94 FM is presented locally by Ambrose Inc.
GU Self-Storage, conveniently located near the Harmon McDonald's. We offer affordable rates, online payments, and auto bill pay for your convenience. Plus gate access daily from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Call us today at 648-7867 for more information. We hope that you and your loved ones are safe and healthy during the COVID-19 pandemic. It has been a challenging time for all, but now, more than ever, our cancer patients and caregivers need us. Although we are apart, we stand united in the fight against cancer. The American Cancer Society Guam is excited to announce our first virtual Relay for Life. Join us on Saturday, June 27th at 6:30 p.m. on KUAM TV 8, as well as on I-94 FM and streaming on KUAM News digital platforms. Cancer does not stop, and neither can we. On June 27th, let's celebrate together and fight cancer. Visit relayforlife.org/GuamGU to find out how you can participate in the 2020 virtual Relay for Life Guam.
Be healthy. Be informed with ITD.
Guam's favorite, I-94, 719. Coming up on the show, there's a new mayor in town and he's calling up. We'll talk with Joint Mayor-elect Bill Kinga. Good morning. 719. Also slated later in this hour, Lieutenant Governor of Guam, Josh Tenorio. But first, before we go to Adelup, let's go to the Guam Congress Hall and check in with the minority leader, Senator Tello Taidagui. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning, Chris and Sabrina. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
What's going on with you guys for session this week?
Well, we go in at 10 a.m. this morning. We have 4 bills on the agenda. First bill is from Kelly Marshall with regards to rip currents with the Department of
what are we doing? Are we making rip currents illegal?
I have no idea. Or is it? Yeah, that's true. Well, no. Basically, it's just a program within Department of Parks and Rec. The only concern I really have here is that the original bill that was introduced had the Department of Recs, provide everything from brochures and signage and things like that, and that all costs money. Mm-hmm. So, of course, Parks and Rec said, we have very low budget, not as much, when they had the public hearing the first time. So when I read the bill coming out of committee, now she puts the onus and the cost on the Fire Department, Department of Agriculture, and Guam Visitors Bureau to pay for it. So
I don't know.
That's going to be an issue too. I mean, and it says shall. So I'm going to make a little amendment there. I don't think this is priority right now to put programs together to say, okay, the current is bad in this area, and hiking is. Be careful to hike in that area.
Oh, yeah.
So I think there's some priority needed. Yeah. The other bill that we're looking at that's been put on the agenda is, I believe it's Senator
Peter Terlahi's bill?
Peter Terlahi, yes. And this is on the both.
Allowing choice.
Providing to, just need to take a drink there. Providing to the option for 2 insurance companies during the health insurance negotiations to provide a choice. And this is very controversial. We're hearing, oh my God, I think I've had like 80% to 85% of the people who sent in testimonies in favor of it because of the problems that they're having with Aetna. It becomes very difficult getting referrals from individuals, from Aetna. And when a person is sick, and they're told they need an operation right away, they shouldn't have to wait 3 weeks just to get a referral. Things like that are happening all the time. Reimbursements are not coming in, and when you're going through any kind of medical issues, finances should be the least of your worry, as well as trying to get a referral when the doctor's standing by ready for the appointment. They can't do anything because the insurance company is not answering your questions. We have to really look at priority here. I mean, it's no amount of money is going to bring back time, that you've having to wait. So this is going to be very a good heated debate on the floor. We have DOA who had brought in testimony, and of course they're in the middle of negotiations right now. And if you stop the flow of this, it may disrupt. So there's some pros, cons, there's concerns, issues, but it all boils down to, the call of the people wanting that choice. Tired of having to deal with an insurance company that's off island instead of here. We've been, I guess, I shouldn't say spoiled, we've been treated much better when it comes to health insurance on Guam than what we've been treated this last year with Aetna. So there's really a discrepancy there.
Yeah, I'm looking at the committee report, and it's three to pass and 5, I think, to report out only.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what the other senators have to say about that.
I know in the past it used to be when you got the committee report, it broke down like who recommended to pass and who, it broke it down, but it's not in here.
Oh, it usually does.
If you go further down,
all the way down
to the bottom, usually it's all together. I as well just go all the way to the bottom, and you look into that. And then you have the other bill that's coming up by Senator Torres, and this is the lease protection for tenants and from family violence. And what this bill basically does is, in the event there's a family domestic violence, and of course if someone is removed from the house for this domestic violence, that it's easier to give an example. A couple, they have a fight, the guy is abusive, or the female. I don't want to be biased here. It could go either way these days. But in the event she wants to get out and move away and get away from her abuser or his abuser, then she would not be liable for any the lease, breaking the lease, or any damages caused. Mm-hmm. So my concern here, and I think I've reiterated in the public hearing, that in the event that should happen, you can't leave the landlord responsible for something like this. Somebody has to be responsible. And in a situation like this, if you're going to go to court for small claims for the damages for someone else, then the other person must testify against the other person, because that's the only way you're going to be able to get damages. Right. So, and sometimes when you go into domestic abuses like this, they don't want to get involved. They just want to run away and not be a part of it. So who leaves the damages in their hands, or the cost of these damages in their hands? The landlord. So there's got to be a win-win here. The landlord has to be able to recover any kind of damages. I don't think there would be a problem with letting go of a lease if there's a domestic violence in there. Most landlords are very sympathetic to the issue and really don't want that kind of activity in their apartment building anyways. Someone can seriously get hurt, for that. The other one, of course, is a very controversial bill coming up. And there's only 4 bills that have actually placed on the agenda. The other bills are about 9 other bills, but it doesn't have a committee report at the time of Committee on Rules. And the other bill is Bill 71, and this is lifting the weight restrictions on roadways. Now, we've had a huge public hearing on this, and it was a while ago. Businesses coming in claiming that the cost of goods are high because they have to make more trips to commercial port to bring their goods to their businesses because of the weight restrictions. So if you're having a container that is not even halfway full because of the weight restrictions, you got to go back again. That's time, that's gas, and that's that's what this one is all about, is lifting those restrictions. Now, there's so many things in this bill, and I hope Senator Moynihan is prepared, to talk about this regarding the weight restrictions and what it does to the roadways. This can cause, more damage to our roads, or does it really provide? Well, how do you? Because there's a lot involved here. You're talking about the axles, where the wheels are located, the double wheels on the truck, balancing it out, allowing the additional weight. Does it really do as much damage as they say it's doing? Is it about the bridges that have been the bridges that they're crossing over? Does it allow trucks to not going into village roads that would cause more damages when you're using top coats for these roads that are really not? I mean, even a regular pickup truck can damage our roads like we're seeing. Mm-hmm. So there has to be a balance on this. Is this really going to? And the question I asked all those people who came in to testify in favor of this bill, which are, of course, wholesalers, and asked them, okay, are you going to lower your prices? You're saying you raise your prices because of the restrictions on the weight on the road is causing you to raise your price because you're having to take more trips back and forth. Are you going to lower prices? And they said, yes, we would lower our prices.
What about the double pay, Senator? How do you think all these double pay, what's the debate going to be like on that?
It's not even on the agenda.
I know, right, but what are you anticipating when it comes?
Well, I think what we have to be very cautious right now on those bills, those 4 bills, because we're in court right now regarding it. And I think if we wait to see what the courts are coming out with and what they're required, then I think we need to go to that direction. We've already received an AG's opinion, and some people are not happy with what their opinion is, so now they're taking it to court. So the court is going to decide at this point if it is required that double pay is, needed or not needed, is by law, that they're entitled to. So I think we want to be cautious about that and wait to see the decision of the court before we do anything.
What about the second part to that oversight hearing that your colleague Senator Sabina Perez had? The famous, there's so much that happened in that oversight hearing, and I feel like
so much.
At the end of it, there was a commitment, I thought, that they were going to have another one.
Yeah, I hadn't heard anything from Senator Sabina at all for Perez.
Right.
Taken that
You think a second part is warranted, Senator? Because I felt like there were so many questions that went unanswered.
One thing I do know is that I think she's creating legislation to correct anything that is questionable, anything that we need to address that would make it clear by law what the powers are, what are the requirements needed. I think that she's trying to do that. And I know that Senator Perez has been working with Attorney Brown when it comes to, introducing some type of legislation in procurement, and that was a while ago. I really didn't see anything that she has an intention of having a second.
Because there was a big.
You don't think?
Did
you say you don't?
I don't.
We'll ask
would
her.
have put it out.
Yeah.
I mean, I think she would have put it out. You guys are great at getting information.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, one of the questions that remains unanswered was the involvement of the Homeland Security advisor, Tim Uggan.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's
they basically threw him under the bus, and we were watching the clips again this weekend.
Yeah, we were. There was one with who was asking the question? Oh, actually, no. It was a statement that was read by the governor's legal counsel,
right.
Attorney Hai Hin, as to why all of a sudden he came into the picture. Do we have that sound? We can go.
Yeah, we do. Wait, which one?
It's the shorter soundbite where Hai was reading the statement from the governor. He was going through a chronology of what transpired.
Are we going with is this the one with Senator Amanda? And
No. That's
the other one. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you ready? Yeah. Senator, we're going to put you on hold and play this clip and then get your 2 cents on it when we come back.
Okay, absolutely. Right. Thank you.
Okay.
March 17, 2020. It was discovered that the Homeland Security advisor had not procured quarantine or isolation facilities as previously reported. Homeland Security's reliance on condemning a certain hotel was not approved. Legal counsels were instructed to and quickly engage with the Guam Hotel and Restaurant Association, GHRA, to seek hotel properties willing to serve as quarantine sites. GHRA was later able to report that only the Days Inn, Wyndham Garden, Santa Fe, Perlis Court, and Pacific Star responded. All those facilities were ultimately utilized.
You know, Senator, I know that this was one issue that you had brought up during the virtual oversight hearing, was the fact that you had actually received messages from Mary Rhodes, and we had Mary Rhodes on the air confirming that that was 60% true, 40% false, in a sense that she was not involved at all with Perlis Court for the simple fact that Perlis Court isn't even a member of JHRA and Pacific Star. But yeah, having heard this, have you heard anything else about Homeland Security dropping the ball, at least as per the governor's office, or anything else that was going on?
Well, I have to tell you, and divulge to you that I did get a text from Homeland Security Director
Tim Uggan.
Again.
Yeah. What did that text say? Because I got some text from him too.
He texted me and said that I heard that you're looking for me.
I think a lot of people are looking for.
This was like how many days after this hearing,
right?
So I text back and I said yes. Is there what's up? Because he says, I heard you're looking for me. I said, yes. Is there anything you want to say? And things. So he texts back and says to me, in fact, let me pull that up. And I have to tell you,
I thought it was interesting that he wasn't even there
I don't know
at the
if that was
oversight
just
hearing.
It was an oversight on the oversight, or...
Yeah, hold on one second.
Or if it was intentional not to have him there. I mean, come on. How could you not have Homeland Security there? He's the assistant, or Tony Vivalta is the GAR, and then he's the assistant or substitute GAR or something like that.
Can you refresh my memory? Did Senator Paris say that he was invited to the hearing?
Yes, everybody was invited. Yes, I know she did her due diligence and made sure she called everybody. So it says Help a Day Center. I was watching KUAM Facebook when you were on. I think that she wanted to contact me. So he sends. And then he moves on to say that, then he deletes his text. After I read it, and it wasn't until like 10 minutes later he deletes his text.
Can you speak to the phone, Senator?
Well, all of that, I didn't have a chance to really soak it in and absorb it, or even screenshot something like this, but I think it was to effect that what was said during that oversight hearing on procurement and what Hyatt said was not true.
Or at least according to Tim, it wasn't true, right?
So according to Tim, it was not true. So I asked him, so that was sent around 2:26 p.m. on a Tuesday. And so then I asked him, hey, Tyson, could you please give me a call? Not a big fan of texting back and forth, hope you don't mind. So, he says, I'm actually tied up right now, and that's why I'm texting. I'll call you tomorrow if that's okay with you. And I said, tomorrow's fine. Take care. And then I never got a call back from him. And then when I looked back at the text, he had deleted it. So there is something very fishy going on there, And I'm looking forward to talking to Tim again to get his side of the story. And why would he delete that text after telling me what, So... that what Hyatt said was not true. I mean, we heard from Mary Torres. That was the first indication that Hyatt was not telling the truth as well. Mary Torres said her side of the story, and thank goodness she came on.
And you mean Mary Rhodes? Yeah.
I mean Mary Rhodes.
Yeah. There were a few times that he was contradicted, and it was like, at first he said he wasn't leading the procurement, and then Linda DeNorsi was like, yeah, he was leading the procurement. It was kind of funny.
Have you ever had him on the show? Because We
tried, and we were told that the only way we could get the governor's legal counsel is if we agreed that the interview would be off the record, And any answer that we wanted on the record, they would then bring in the policy director, Carlo Branch, to speak for the legal counsel, which is the most harebrained, nonsensical malarkey I ever heard in my life. I've never heard of.
Not transparent.
And they tried to pass this off to other media. We weren't the only one that this sort of a deal was offered to. And
just like,
that's not something we would agree to ever.
Are you like a grown man? You can't answer questions. It just was really, really. And I told Carlo, I was like, this is ridiculous, dude. And then he was like, oh, another media agreed to do it, thinking that we were going to be like, okay, sign us up. But then no one ended up doing it.
Here's a question, too, as well, with regards to the not the procurement, but the funds that were used to pay for the Pacific Star. Now, was that funds from the general fund, or was that CARES Act fund? Now, if it was CARES Act fund, the biggest concern that the government should have is when pursuing the procurement of, or how it was procured, or what was behind it as they negotiated, because it's federal funds, then this could be easily investigated. It doesn't have to be investigated by the legislature. It could be investigated by the U.S. Attorney General's office that oversees anything federal. And this is federal money. So I was asking someone last week, do you know if the governor used the CARES Act when it came in to reimburse for Pacific Star, or did she directly use general funds? Because I know she was trying to seek out FEMA. Remember that conversation you had with FEMA? That they were never involved from the beginning or the get-go of the negotiation of the Pacific Star. Now, if you're going to get federal funds for anything, you want them in the beginning of the loop of all this.
I wonder, though, with the CARES Act funding, because there was a lot of talk when we received this about how involved the Inspector General was going to be in auditing it. So my thinking this weekend, because I was thinking about this, was, okay, it's one thing to go to the legislature and, read a statement and not answer any questions. And
what I think I would like to have seen was a timeline of the electronic transfer payments on when they were made, as opposed to the timeline of how we went to procure things. But payments, I think, and that was something that you actually brought up during the oversight hearing when you were questioning, I think it was High and then Mr. Byrne, about payments that were made prior to contracts being signed. And Mr. Byrne had mentioned that yes, he had paid invoices 6 weeks prior or something like that, and then he got the directive from the governor, which was that memo on May 8th. And so we FOIA'd for the invoices that were paid, and we're currently going through a lot of them. And some of these invoices date all the way back to March, so we don't know at what point they were paid. But at least from the statement from Mr. Byrne, it was 6 weeks ago, which would have been 6 weeks prior to the date of that oversight hearing.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering, like I was saying, it's one thing to go to legislature and to be like, we have these superpowers, and I mean, to offer up this interpretation that everybody seems to disagree with. I mean, it's one thing to try and float it past you guys, but when Uncle Sam comes down with a red pen, I'm wondering how much all of this unsigned, because they're not signed, they're not contracts.
And when did we get CARES Act funding? CARES Act funding, what was mid-April?
Right, yeah.
Right. Yeah, and according to this, I think it was Lester, that all the funding that was transferred out of agencies, the $7 million, was all reimbursed.
Right.
So it sounds to me like CARES money was used to pay the Pacific Star, and if you're using federal funding, then there's the green light. Say go, U.S. Attorney General. There seems to be some controversy, and if I'm not mistaken, I think someone told me that there was someone on the Fed side who did. I think it was the U.S. Attorney General's office that questioned somebody over at Homeland Security. I'm not sure on that. It was someone that just said that to me. Oh, yeah, Tolo, I think somebody already asked questions there, meaning they are investigating. Now, anytime there is anything like that, and it's obvious it's been all over the news by the what's been going on in Pacific Star and the payments being made and the signature, this forgery that was already, Linda DeNorcia said her piece. She said that. So that's
several times.
Yeah, many times.
In your
response, the first time was on your show.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
In your response from Tim Uggan, the HSA, did he mention anything about this condemnation? Because I know that was one of the things that High had mentioned in his statement that he read.
No, I was like, you mean with Tim? No,
Yeah.
I didn't see anything like that, and I was hoping he would call me back, but he hasn't called me back.
Well,
at all.
we got.
I'm glad he reached out. I'm happy he reached out to me, but now I'm pretty sure he's really, really super busy now. but
is he back to work?
But I think,
I think he goes back to work today. Yeah, we got a couple clips, and then we too have had conversations with the Homeland Security advisor that we're going to divulge here in the next hour as he made a commitment to call in this morning to share.
I'm trying to figure out who's the oversight of Homeland Security on the legislative side. Let me pull that up. Because the oversight chair can also call him in. If he's MIA, we can bring him out and have the same kind of oversight hearing. I am not sure who is the oversight chair, but all in all, legislative committees, and we can see who that is. I think it might be Pito, because there's public safety, so it might be Pito Tala. He's the oversight chair of Homeland Security, and he should do an informational briefing.
I like it when you call it informational briefing.
Well,
that's like the nice way to say oversight, right?
I have to say that whatever the administration is doing right now, it's obviously they're spending more time trying to cover this up than moving forward and providing this federal funding needed to those people out. And they are doing a great job of doing that, but if they could just answer these unanswered questions and provide us not individuals to speak to us and come to our public hearings and come to our informational or oversight hearings to allow them to come on and speak to the people. I think they're forgetting that they work for the people.
I think one of the things
that for by the people of Guam
that threw me for a loop was the use of the executive privilege. But we have Lieutenant Governor Josh on the line, so we'll go ahead and move on over to him.
And please give him, or if he's listening, Lieutenant Governor, thank you so much for always taking my calls and answering my questions. I greatly appreciate. If there's one thing that I have a connect with, it's with the Lieutenant Governor of Guam, who does take the time to answer these questions. I really appreciate that.
All right. Well,
looking forward to giving you some more information once session is begun. And if there's anything else I can do, please feel free to call. Take care. God bless, and create a great day.
All right. Wash your hands, Senator. Thank you. Okay. All right. 7:44. Let's go ahead and get Lieutenant Governor Josh on the show. Thanks, LT, for joining us this morning.
Hi. Good morning. Hi, Chris and Sabrina.
Good morning.
People of Guam. Good morning.
Good morning. I guess we haven't talked to you since the oversight hearing. Kind of just, if we could just give you the floor and get your thoughts on that hearing.
On the oversight hearing?
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, you did, when we first interviewed you, you did say there were some red flags with the procurement.
So, I guess I would say that, if I'm not mistaken, today, the auditor's office kicks off their audit on this procurement, and I'm hopeful, or I would expect that all of the things that people did and what they knew and what they're saying should all be documented, and we'll all have a chance to take a look at it and I guess sort it out that way.
Mm-hmm. Did you hear Senator Tello Taitagui on the air? She was mentioning that Hai-hin, when he was at the oversight hearing, he read a statement, I believe it was from the governor, and it basically sounded like the reason why he was directed to take over the whole procurement for the quarantine hotels was because the HSA director had basically dropped the ball. So he was told to go in there and get this done. And so he did. But Senator Taitagui, the minority leader, was saying that she received a message from the HSA director saying that was absolutely untrue. And then he deleted his messages. Why, of course, we don't know. What are your thoughts on that? And is that true or it's not true from what you know of what happened here?
Well, I guess for me, what I'm thinking is I'm going to look at is what the audit says, but I just say that I did get a similar message from the HSA telling me the same thing and expressing the same sentiment.
LT, what?
So,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
What did you make of the use of the executive privilege? I'm not really asking you to break from the governor on this, but I thought it was interesting, and I don't know.
Can you repeat yourself, Chris?
Yeah. What did you make of the governor, or the legal counsel's and the governor's use of the executive privilege? I don't know if you know, they sent a letter down to the legislature an hour before the hearing and said they won't be waiving executive privilege. And I can't remember if that's ever been done before, but I thought it was pretty interesting, especially for a process that they had held up that, hey, we use these powers, we own it, we think it was okay. So I just was curious, what do you think of them not really answering a lot of questions on it and reading the statement and, using the executive privilege?
Well, I think when you're dealing with lawyers, I guess it gets a little complicated sometimes. And gosh, I don't have a comment on the executive privilege yet. I'm still kind of processing that in my mind. Mm-hmm. I've been reading up on when it's used and why it would be used, and our councils are recommending that, and I really don't have a comment on that yet.
Mm-hmm. So what part, I wanted to go back to Tim Elgin because I'm not done yet. What part did he say was not true?
He just indicated to me that, he was not instructed to do any procurement. That's pretty much what it was at the time when they were doing all the planning.
Did you hear anything at all about...
Wait. He was told that he was not...
He wasn't
instructed to.
What he messaged me was that he just wanted me to know that he was never instructed to initiate procurement during the time in which he was working with public health and GHRA. He was simply trying to understand which hotels would be willing to step forward and voluntarily be considered for to be used as quarantine. That's what he told me.
Mm-hmm. Right. So if he's not in charge of procurement, as the Homeland Security administrator, who is during a public emergency?
It would be. Civil defense should be the purchaser.
Civil defense would be the one who would be going out there and trying to find the
facilities. They would coordinate, just like they're doing it right now for quarantine. What they did recently for quarantine, and also what the active procurement is for the homeless shelter.
And the HSA wouldn't have anything to do with any of that?
Yes, of course. But what he's trying to tell me is that at that posture that he was in, he wasn't initiating the procurement. Mm-hmm. He didn't. That's what he told me.
Did he say he had anything to do with this condemnation?
I'm learning also. I'm trying to keep an open mind. I would like the audit to take a look at it, but I don't want to be. I just think that the fair thing to do is I would like the independent auditors to come in, issue a report, and I want to take a look and see what happened.
Mm-hmm.
That's
I don't want to make allegations against people. I don't want to defend people if I don't know the whole thing and I'm not involved in the transaction. My interest is I want to see once the independent auditors are there, what happened and what needs to be done to improve the process. The same thing that Senator Sabina said at the oversight hearing is this is the first time we had a pandemic, and if the system could not be relied upon in time to secure the hotel, or if there should be a better way, a method, and I'm interested in kind of understanding that and doing the change or the improvement.
No, I understand that this is the first time we've had a pandemic of this kind. But at the same time, does that make it okay to pay invoices and pay people without signed agreements, without following procurement?
And
or we're okay because, I have special powers?
I think that the audit is going to tell us what was appropriate and what was not appropriate and what should have been done or what should be done, that's what I'm expecting that process should be from people that, from the independent auditors. That's what I'm looking for.
Independent so who picked up these independent auditors? Are we talking about the OPA?
No. Yes, the OPA. The OPA. There's if I'm not mistaken, they're initiating or they're kicked off for that audit. The review of CARES Act, the review of pay is all starting up today.
So you were a former GAR. Is this the sort of process that would have been followed? Or would you have
for a typhoon, we never experienced it like this, where we had to shut down and prepare for the threat of people coming in from a country that was closing up. I mean, I think that's really just taking a look at what the timelines are and whether or not the decisions that were made to secure the facility are the best decisions that were made. And the auditors letter that I saw is also reviewing and determining which statute was relied upon to obtain and complete this transaction.
Yeah,
that's what I'm looking for.
I think LT. I mean, if you look at the timelines of it, it just doesn't add up, because they're now saying, "Oh, we were going to use CARES Act funding," but that seems to have been a determination that was made after the fact. Because as we all know, in following this, they went out, they did it. They tried to give it to Claudia Faggi. She said, "I'm not signing it. You already paid invoices. I don't want to get in that mess." Charles Estevez also did not sign it. And it was then that they said, "Oh, we're going to," I mean, I guess the only thing they had to fall back on was the Emergency Health Powers Act. So I think that timeline's important, in that they had tried to, even though the governor's legal counsel was out there making deals, they had tried to ram it through the existing process we're all familiar with. And when the people who are a big part of that process and the approval said no, then it was, "Oh, let me do a memo and, Ed Byrne, pay this stuff." So I think it's interesting that the timelines of it, because although they're saying that they're using the CARES Act funding, we know that there was an attempt to get it finished anyway with the traditional emergency procurement route.
And even after receiving
and that's how I think that's what we're going to see laid out, I believe, in the audit. After
receiving that message from Tim Uggan, did you do anything with it? Did you say, "Hey, Governor, I just got this from the HSA, and he said that that statement was not true"?
No, he just spoke to me on Saturday, and he also has a sick relative he's caring for, and I wanted to reach out to and talk to him about that, but.
So after you spoke with him on Saturday, did you bring it up to the governor or Mr. High?
I haven't spoken about that yet.
No? Okay.
Yeah.
I also got some text from Tim Uggan. I think he was texting everybody. I think after that hearing, he was like, "Oh, hell no." But the gist of the text I got was that he was telling me he's nobody's fall guy, and he won't tolerate anyone trying to discredit or accuse him of any wrongdoing in public, especially in the media. So that sounds pretty firm.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. So this is going to be an interesting one to play out, LT. Are you social distancing from this?
No. I'm just trying to keep an open mind and trying to understand and see how all of this was pieced together. Yeah. And understanding that, I still don't believe anybody was acting malicious, but I would like to, I think the audit is going to let us know whether what the path to obtain the service should be or is. So I would like to see the whole picture.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's move on and let's talk about the economic recovery and tourism potentially reopening in July. And there was something that you had said during the press conference when former Governor Carl Gutierrez was there, and you said something about let's make lemons, right, or lemonade out. Lemons out of lemonade, right, or something like that?
I like to make Finadeni, but
remember I used to work for him, so he used to say that all the time.
Right? Yeah, he did. Yeah.
But of course, we're watching the situation. I've been reading with very keen interest the situation in Korea where they're closing schools again because they're trying to understand what these clusters are. And so obviously, there's a whole lot of people on the island, both in the industry and in the physicians advisory group, that are really trying to analyze and develop the best possible strategy to facilitate the return of the tourists. And on the other side, it has to do to make sure that we have a good, robust response. And I'm thinking that it's going to, spark at least some innovation. And this is also interesting because even testing right now is just such a dynamic situation where there's a split in the medical community about confidence level for the serology tests, the blood tests, and there's legal side whether or not you can mandate people to test, or is it the airlines that can mandate, and what the role of government is. There's a lot of stuff that I think is being sorted, but we have some good minds on it. And I'm also grateful that Jerry Perez has lended his time to help stabilize and find a good path, and I'm optimistic that they will. The other side of it also is working with the schools, and we've been doing a lot of work in the last few weeks understanding the digital network on the island, and very fortunate to have really good connectivity on the island because of all of the undersea cables that are coming in. And so right now it's really about understanding what the OE's future is and the other schools, and how we can provide support for the kids to get access home. Because I think that right now, based on the social distancing rules, it still has to be determined what the occupancy is going to be in schools, and that's an active, unresolved issue right now.
Right. LT, what did you make of this, the news coming out of South Korea, which is one of the markets that we're targeting? They reopened a bunch of schools, then had to shut them down because of a surge.
Close them.
Right. So
I think that is helpful. It's unfortunate for them for sure, but it's helpful for us to make sure that we continue this posture of slowly rolling things out and making sure that it's in line with what the capacity is at the hospital. Those are, some of the things, and then making sure that we have continued support, including from the military, with all of the facilities and the personnel that are here to support the posture. One of the, I'm not sure, and I think because we're really in the thick of things, but the Army general that came out, and that will come out if there will be a surge, is actually a Chamarita. Did you hear this?
No.
General Smith, and she is an Artero. Her professional background basically is running military hospitals, and she was one of the people out of Hawaii that was sent here basically to do the assessment to facilitate the opening of that field hospital, but then also to open pipelines for some medical folks. So we have microbiologists that came in from the military that are with the CDC folks and public health folks at our labs, and things like that. But so it's those are resources that we definitely want to continue. And then, of course, I do want to thank all of the doctors in the physicians advisory group, and also the clinics. I read the story over the weekend, and I just wanted to maybe address this whole issue with the payment of the Tier 2 clinics. And
thank you, LT.
What's happening is trying to come up with a good approach that is based on some consensus, because we have also some basic business interruption for nearly all of the clinics on island. And so what the governor did was set aside more than $7 million to push in, and we have a group right now that's working on a proposal that we feel would be able to, or at least the goal is to give some aid to stabilize their operations and that posture. And
Is that for all clinics, you said? Not just tier 2s?
Well, and if you talk to the doctor, there's a lot of discussion in that realm. Yes, there's the tier 2, but there's also tier 3 facilities, clinics also.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that is being reconciled right now, trying to come up with a good proposal. One of the proposals, for example, and one of the models that we tried to look at was a model based on Medicaid patients and the number of Medicaid and MIP. But some of these bigger clinics that are in tier 2 do not accept or have very nominal Medicaid or MIP patients, and so that formula would not support them. There's another model, based on trying to do a per patient in clinic, but that also might be a little complicated. And then there's others based on, taking a look at what their GRT or revenue was last year, and trying for that to use to figure out how to distribute and make available the funds. So I think that's kind of where we're at, is trying to, we have a group, and I'll get a report in the next few days on what the best, fairest approach is going to be.
Right.
Part of it is just like, one of the complications are, a lot of the patients that went to the clinics for their tests are all on private insurance and were billed to private insurance. So you can't, if it's going to be reimbursing on those, and they have to, it becomes an accounting thing also. So
LT, let me just let me just cut in here. KUAM-FM, I got Guam. It's containing COVID. Good morning to our viewers on TV 11 on the line. Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio, where we're discussing payments and possible CARES Act funds going towards local clinics. LT, in that story, something that we got late Friday we weren't able to include was they weren't necessarily a tier 2, but there was a bunch of invoices that were paid out to HSP, Health Services of the Pacific. So when I was working on that tier 2 story, some of the clinics were concerned that HSP was included in the superpowers route, and the I think it was the May 8th memos from the governor. So I FOIA'd Ed Byrne for any payments made using the Emergency Powers Act.
What I know that what I know is that HSP, they were providing medical staff at the quarantine sites, doing the evaluations of the incoming passengers.
Right.
Now, the contract aspects and all those nuances I'm not yet familiar with, but I can tell you that they came in. HSP does have public health contracts, but not for pandemic at the time.
Right.
And so I know that they were secured to basically do the temperature checks, and then also to facilitate if passengers had symptoms, and then connect with public health on the testing.
Yeah, this was one of those unsigned contracts.
And I think that's where the tier 2s are kind of scratching their heads, and that they've also provided a service. And I understand what you're saying on the timeline, as HSP was on the quarantine facility, so it's kind of done, right?
Inside the hotels.
Right.
But the intent is there to try, and the way I see it is that they're because a lot of people also didn't go to the clinics. They were scared. Early on, people were told, if you're sick, stay home, right, throughout the country.
Right.
And then when they could open, there's most that are doing drive-through or telehealth, but I think that the patient revenues dropped because people were not going to the doctor.
Right.
And then you see a little of that now at the hospital, when there's been, a bunch of non-COVID hospitalizations, likely resulting because people were scared or at home and didn't want to come in. And that's something that I guess we've been seeing throughout the world.
Right, and I know that that's something Dr. Duenas had brought up, Dr. Vince Duenas had brought up in emails to the governor's office, saying that, we've been adversely affected by COVID. So I know you mentioned the CARES Act funding. He seemed to think that might be one way for these tier 2 clinics to get relief, would be to just, if you divvy up that $7 million or however you guys do.
I think that's the intent. Because it also is it's trying to make sure that these clinics and the medical staff are supported and ready in case something happens also. But they're also, some of them got the PPP, SBA loans, and in other criteria that's been used. I'm not sure if that's going to be factored in, because in my mind, at least, I'm suggesting that it, be looked at, just try and take looking at it as trying to stabilize healthcare and making sure that we have parity and a good consensus behind how it gets distributed.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to follow.
So there is not consensus about it yet,
okay.
including among the clinics.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to follow up, and you probably already know this is coming, about the homeless shelter. We did a whole bunch of testing, the passport to services last week. They tested the homeless population, provided aid, conducted assessments, and I believe the question was asked of the governor, the status of the homeless shelter, and I believe she mentioned it was in they were accepting RFPs at the time. Is there any
so we haven't,
anything new?
I'm hopeful that we'll get a briefing about it this morning at our operations meeting. Chuck Esteves has been giving us reports, and so I know that GSA moved to the homeless shelter after they completed addressing all of the quarantine hotels last week, or the last couple of weeks.
Okay, and speaking of the quarantine hotels, this is the second wave of procurement. What is your understanding of what exactly was the problem with Santa Fe that prompted the cancellation of that contract?
I think the National Guard went in and did an assessment, and I'm not sure what all of the issues are. I heard that part of it had to do with, making sure that each room had a phone, adequate phones, and there was a report that the passengers were having to leave their rooms and violate that provision because there were no phones for them to facilitate issues in their stay. That's the only detail I know about it. But I guess I'll find out from Civil Defense if there are other things, because I think that what was reported is that the Chief Procurement Officer and Civil Defense went up there to review the situation and are the ones that made the decision to depart from there.
Right. So it was the prior to the contract being signed. I understand that it's kind of like standard to go out and do a walkthrough of the facility, and so I guess they didn't go through every single room.
I think maybe that when you go out and you have requirements and bidders agree to requirements, and then they just have to make sure that they follow what the conditions are of that award. But all the details I'm unsure about yet. I haven't seen the final report, but I'd have confidence that Claudia and Chuck made the best decision.
Right. And obviously one of the big questions of the day is PUA and what happened over the weekend with the Department of Labor, because I know early in the morning I started getting messages, can we apply, check this out, can we apply? And I'm like, okay, we'll try and find out if this is actually legit, because when you go there is that option to apply. And so we later on got the message from DOL that it's just a soft launch. So yeah. I understand there's going to be a press conference today. Can you provide us any information on that?
I haven't gotten the update yet. I just know that a lot of the staff had been trained on the software, and over the week they were doing a lot of testing, identifying bugs for the vendor to resolve. And I'm hopeful that, based on the urgency to help people, that we can open this as soon as possible.
Right. What about the not SBA, but the GITA, their program that they've got going on and accepting of applications for the CARES, the program that's going to be funded by the CARES Act?
The last Friday, Ricky had reported that there were more than 500 applications, I believe, submitted, and maybe 1,000 downloads of applications. So I think their review process is going, and I'll hear about it, in the next 30 minutes about how things are going, and hopefully when their first awards are going to be as well. A lot of their focus would be on the businesses that fell out of the eligibility or fell out of getting qualified for the SBA programs is part of it.
Okay. All right. Well, is there anything else? It sounds like you got to go to a briefing. Was there anything else that you wanted to say?
Well, no, I just wanted to, this is the rest of the employees of the government came into work today, and I just wanted to tell you that all the directors had been working and submitting plans addressing social distancing, and I just wanted to continue to ask people to remain safe. As you see in the other countries that have had success, there have been kinks or problems and other infections coming down, and if we want to make sure that we can try and advance our normalizing, we still need to recognize that there's a virus on this island, and that's a big threat to all of us, and I just encourage everybody to please continue to keep each other safe and to really understand, make notes where you're at. That would be helpful in the future if something were to happen and you've been exposed.
Okay. Well,
all right, and thank you for everything you're doing. I know that, the role of the media is to provide a proper check and balance in addition to the other branches. And, I just thank you for your work and continue to look forward to speaking with you.
Thank you for always answering our call.
Hopefully, I could be your first in studio whenever that is.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, let's go. Sounds good. Thank you, LT.
Thanks.
All right, thanks.
Okay.
Take care.
Wash your hands.
Bye-bye.
All right. Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio. Hey, we got to take a break. We're going to come back, do the anthems, do our news, and then we're going to break bread this morning with the new mayor-elect of the village of Jotnya. Yep. Okay. That's coming up here. Containing COVID, the KUAM News Takeover, Guam's favorite. Good morning.
Keeping you informed, KUAM News brings you Banking 671, brought to you by the Bank of Guam, the People's Bank, and Coast 360 Federal Credit Union. Together, we thrive.
KUAM News COVID-19 Takeover on I-94 FM is presented locally by Ambrose Inc.
GU Self-Storage, conveniently located near the Harmon McDonald's. We offer affordable rates, online payments, and auto bill pay for your convenience. Plus gate access daily from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Call us today at 648-7867 for more information. We hope that you and your loved ones are safe and healthy during the COVID-19 pandemic. It has been a challenging time for all, but now, more than ever, our cancer patients and caregivers need us. Although we are apart, we stand united in the fight against cancer. The American Cancer Society Guam is excited to announce our first virtual Relay for Life. Join us on Saturday, June 27th at 6:30 p.m. on KUAM TV 8, as well as on I-94 FM and streaming on KUAM News digital platforms. Cancer does not stop, and neither can we. On June 27th, let's celebrate together and fight cancer. Visit relayforlife.org/GuamGU to find out how you can participate in the 2020 Virtual Relay for Life Guam.
Be healthy. Be informed with ITD.
Calling all graduating seniors. Join us by showing your class pride in the celebration caravan you deserve through the island's major thoroughfares. KUAM and its partners want to recognize your accomplishments and help celebrate this pivotal moment in your lives. To participate, email promotions@KUAM.com and let's get this show on the road. Special thanks to ABC Stores Guam and The Dungeon.
Panogita moru purita nonda kantai mantunat nyagi toru ilugar para ion ra para I gloria abibai islasen para honra, para gloria, abiba islasen para todo y tempo y paz para ita dan gini langit na bendición contra y peligro na fan sa fuham Deus protegis languam contra y peligro na fan sa fuham Deus protegis languam.
Be healthy. Be informed with ITD.
Hey, good morning, 820 to our KUAM TV 11 viewers. Good morning on you. Our listeners on I-94, 820. Also, good morning. Remember, there's an audio stream at Docomo Channel 10, and we're streaming on KUAM.com and the KUAM News app. And last but not least, on the Edward R. Murrow Award-winning social media networks of KUAM. Good morning to our Facebook Live viewers. Again, it's Monday, the first day of June. Lots going on in the show, and plenty more on the way at 8:21. Let's do a dive into the day's COVID-19 headlines from the KUAM News team with the very latest. Good morning, Sabrina Solis-Mazzanani.
Hafide, everybody. Here's what's making island news. The latest count of COVID-19 cases on Guam stands at 173. Only one test returned positive over the weekend. The Department of Labor's online application form for the PUA is live, but DOL says don't file a claim just yet. According to a media release, they are conducting a soft launch of the online application and using it to work out remaining bugs in the program. DOL is still setting up the main processing center. Applications filed prior to the formal launch of the online program may result in errors that could delay the qualification process. An official announcement is expected to be made during a press conference scheduled for 2 o'clock this afternoon. As reported, even after you apply online, the vetting process could take up to 21 days, but DOL Director David De La Sola says he's going to work to shorten that time frame. Gov Guam officially reopened today. Some employees will be allowed to telework, and the governor's COVID Category 3 differential pay program also cuts off today. Also effective today, all returning residents flying into Guam will be allowed to home quarantine. Here's more from the governor's announcement.
Updated quarantine protocol effective Monday, June 1st. We will be implementing a new protocol for the quarantine of travelers into Guam. Current returning and intended residents of Guam, persons who are essential healthcare or other essential workers, or persons who have traveled to Guam because of an emergency or a personal hardship situation may be allowed to complete their 14-day requirement for quarantine at their home residence or at their rental lodging location. They must also be able to verify their identification, and we will be accepting valid Guam IDs, a mayor's verification that you are a resident, or the individual can sign the declaration of residency upon arrival. Non-residents will still be subject to quarantine at the Gov Guam designated quarantine facilities. We will, however, also accept diagnostic specimen testing for the non-residents, such as PCR with samples taken at most 1 week prior to arrival. And this is to allow them then to self-quarantine at their rental lodging.
As for residents that are currently in GovGuam's quarantine facility, the governor did mention that they will be allowed to be released on home quarantine. Last week on our show, we had guests talking about the status of daycares opening and more than $6 million in CARES Act funding GovGuam has had since April. Public Health's Linda and Bingo DeNorsi and the governor provided an update at the recent briefing held at Adelup.
However, the department is also in its final phase to issue out $6.4 million that is coming in from the CARES Act. And this $6.4 million will be inclusive not only of those 44 centers, the daycare centers that are covered already through our CCDF program, but it will include all the 47 licensed childcare facilities throughout the island. Now, what has had to happen is we have at the department have already submitted our plan, which is required to get it submitted through ACF, which is the Administration for Children and Families. It's a federal government. And this plan will provide us information to them as far as how we plan to pay the daycare centers, their consideration in terms of buying partitions or glasses or anything, the equipment or supplies for their daycare facility, and how they also will utilize the CARES Act funds to be in accordance with anything that they'll need. And this funding can also pay for personnel, their rent, their mortgages, any overhead costs affiliated with their daycare, whether it's power, water, and also equipment and supplies. And so right now, our staff are doing the final phase, which is just routing it to the AG. And once it is done, then it will be reviewed for legality and form. And from there, we already established the account, and that money has already arrived. And we're ready to disseminate and distribute those funds as soon as the AG approves that.
Ma'am, if I can just sort of re-clarify my question.
Can I just add something here also? As we move from PCOR 1 to PCOR 2 and to PCOR 3 and ultimately to PCOR 4, what we're saying and what is being demonstrated is that our risk of exposure to this virus and our risk for increased community spread is decreasing and declining as we move from one phase to the other. And so one of the reasons that we didn't want to open daycare centers right away, we wanted to make sure that as we move from these phases, from these PCORs, that we are in an environment or in a period where we have less risk. And this is a way to protect the children of these daycare centers. And also, as you realize, and of course know, children are not very adherent to social distancing. They probably won't use their mask. And so it's hard to put those preventive measures in those centers. So the most safe time to open them up is in the time where we have less coronavirus in our community and we have less risk, in order for us to feel safe and comfortable that our children will be protected in those daycare centers, because it's a congregate place.
Go into session today. Last Friday, several hearings were held on multiple bills to address the controversial issue of double pay for frontline workers. Nestor Lacanto reports.
All of the bills seek to compensate essential GovGuam employees who were required to work while others were paid who stayed home. The first bill heard was by Vice Speaker Talina Nelson.
They went out there willingly to care for us, to care for the people of Guam, to provide medical attention, to respond to ailments and illnesses risking their exposure, and also the possible contraction to their family members.
The other measures heard today offered the same rationale, with variations on the amount and type of compensation. But representing the Women's Chamber of Commerce was Chairperson Holly Rustick, who said for every government worker called to duty, there were also private sector nurses, store clerks, food service workers, and more also on the front lines.
None of these people who have clearly risked their lives and their health of that or their family in order to provide our people with much needed care, sustenance, and services will be receiving double pay.
She also raised the issue of affordability, saying the bills will pose severe financial implications for GovGuam, even as senators themselves were questioning how much or even if the extra compensation can be covered by federal emergency funds.
What good is giving government employees double time for a month of hours worked when the result may very well be that those same employees will have to be furloughed for 1 or 2 days a week if the legislation causes the government to run out of money?
The other bills by Speaker Tina Barnes and Senator Joe San Augustine have undergone public hearings and can be moved on the floor for consideration at the next legislative session. For Guam's News Network, I'm Nestor Lecanto.
Public Health kicks off a series of community testing in various villages throughout the island. This week's testing dates and locations include Wednesday at the Yigo Gym, Thursday in Dededo at the Gura Senior Public Housing, and Friday in Sinohanya at the mayor's office. Democrat Bill Kenga is the mayor-elect for the village of Jotnya. He received 42% of the votes cast during Saturday's special election. Kenga received a total of 641 votes of the total 1,534 ballots cast. The results still need to be certified by the Guam Election Commission. The special election was held to fill the vacancy left by the resignation of former Mayor Jesse Bloss. Earlier this year, Bloss pled guilty to extortion charges for allowing drug trafficking through Jotnya mailboxes. He's scheduled to be sentenced in August. Kenga, in the meantime, defeated a field of 5 other candidates that were vying for the position. Kenga says he's excited and thanks all of his supporters for believing in him. Quote, "I will work to build a better Jotnya." In national news, protests, some of them violence, are going on across the country as anger spills over the death of George Floyd. The handcuffed man died during a police encounter in Minneapolis. Michael George has the latest from Minneapolis.
Some American cities look like war zones as protesters went on a rampage, smashing windows and vandalizing police cruisers. From New York to Los Angeles, demonstrators are taking to the streets in more than a dozen U.S. cities. Some of the protests turned violent. In Seattle, a police vehicle was torched, and windows of this cheesecake factory were smashed in. Police sprayed tear gas on protesters in Minneapolis who defied their curfew. Earlier, the governor activated Minnesota's full National Guard to keep the peace. Protesters in Los Angeles set police vehicles on fire and looted an Apple store. And this restaurant, where dozens of people grabbed whatever they could get their hands on.
We literally want to be heard. We don't want to meet violence with violence. That's not what my people do.
In nearby Beverly Hills, workers hurriedly boarded up storefronts on the world-famous Rodeo Drive before people started hurling objects at police. Officers fired tear gas to break up the crowd. And for the second straight night, police in Washington, D.C. held off angry mobs. University of Southern California law professor Jody Armour says what we're seeing is bigger than what happened to George Floyd.
There was a convergence of a lot of different cases at this moment that I think has raised a lot of a public awareness and made the public especially.
Your Banking 671 report starting today. The Bank of Guam branches, including in the CNMI, will be adding new accounts and loan originations at all open locations. For Guam, these services are by appointment only. To make an appointment, customers can email appointments at bankofguam.com or contact the bank through any of their customer support channels for scheduling needs. Drive-through services will still be limited. According to Bank of Guam's president and chief executive officer, Ken Cook, we continue to prioritize the safety and health of our employees and customers as a key determinant of how we can prudently operate while exercising our responsibilities under local restrictions. We also continue to encourage the use of online and mobile banking for convenient access to account information and other banking needs. And that is your Banking 671 report, brought to you by the Bank of Guam and Coast 360.
All right, thank you very much, Sabrina. One of the stories you reported on, the Jotnya special election, and we have Mayor-elect Bill Kenga on the show. Good morning, Mayor-elect.
Good morning, Chris. Good morning, Sabrina.
Good morning. Congratulations.
Thank you guys so much.
So I understand you're already, you've hit the ground running. You're doing a project this morning?
Yes. Over the Jotnya Library, we volunteered our time to paint the outside of the building. I met up with Ms. Festival, I believe from the library, who's in charge of the libraries. And she asked us to, if we wanted to volunteer to help paint the library, and I volunteered my team.
Mm-hmm. And so, what are your goals for the village of Jotnya? I mean, they've been through a lot over these last several months without a mayor on the ground there.
Yes, unfortunately, things happened to our former mayor and my job. But moving forward from there, I want to just bring back a positive mindset towards our village of Zona, our beautiful village of Zona, by starting off with the youth and especially our manamkos, restoring the building, restoring the baseball fields, bringing back a lot of programs for our youth, especially too, that are a lot of our youth are walking the streets. But we're gonna move forward from there and build a better Zona.
Mm-hmm. Mayor-elect, what are you going to do to ensure that we're never allowing crystal methamphetamine to be shipped into the cluster mailboxes there at the mayor's office?
Oh, for sure. We're going to work hard on that and, try our best to have those things not coming to our village. Unfortunately, it's really bad around the island and around the world. But we're going to work together with GPD, and our neighborhood watch program is in place now and has been doing a great job looking out for our village.
Mm-hmm. What was it like campaigning for this election during the COVID, Mayor?
Oh boy, it was overwhelming, unbelievable how much support I got from our community out here in Georgia. And it was hard campaigning because, the tradition is going door to door. And when this COVID kicked in, it stopped everything. And I was kind of worried about that. But then again, I was more worried about our safety of my team and everyone else around our village.
What would you say to your opponents in this election?
I got together with them some of them came to me after after I won the election, and they congratulated me. They gave me their blessing, and likewise, I gave them my blessing as well. That was a very good thing, and that's the unity I want in our village, and it's one of my visions that is happening now, and I will continue forward with that.
Go ahead. The former mayor, while he was at DOC, he had appointed a municipal planning council. Are you going to appoint a new one, or are you going to leave the one that's currently there in place?
Well, I'm gonna talk to my team and, of course, talk to the embassy that's currently sitting right now, and share our thoughts and ideas, and see where we can go from there. I just can't say right now if I'm going to keep them or not.
What about the staff? Hardworking staff there. All of them used to work for the former mayor. Are you anticipating bringing in your own people and letting that staff go? What's the situation with that?
Well, yes, I'd like to thank the staff for holding on the fort while everything happened to our former mayor. They have done a great deal for our village of Zona, and I've been helping them out. My team has been helping out the mayors, because I know they're overwhelmed too, with everything happening to them. So with the change of staff, like I said, in all due respect, I would like to talk with them also, talk with my team, like I said, about the NPC, and share thoughts and ideas, and we'll go about it from there.
Mm-hmm. So you just won. 29 days is the deadline, I believe, to apply for candidacy. Is that something that you're going to be doing as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, I'm for it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Anything else you want to add, Mayor-elect?
Yes. First off, I'd like to thank my wife, Marie Kinga, and my children. Excuse me. For their sacrifice, especially my wife, who held the fort down here at home, and especially to my team for their hard work. And to Liz and Oda, thank you for electing me for your mayor. I'm proud and honored to serve you as the mayor.
While you were out campaigning, what has been, I guess, some of the main concerns that you've heard from constituents in Jotnya?
You know, a lot of constituents were complaining about this mayor didn't do that, this mayor didn't do this. So, you know, I'm telling them I'm here for you now, and I will be here for you. I'm moving forward from there also, and I'm not one to criticize over the past mayors, what they did or what they didn't do. I'm here to do what needs to be done for our village, brother.
Right, and without criticizing, then what are those concerns? Are we talking about like illegal dumping? Are we talking about crime?
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah, so a lot of illegal dumping has been happening there. That is the biggest concern around our village and other villages, of the trash, the white goods, scrap metal, you know, and junk cars. They really want those things out of the way to beautify our village. Like I told them, I'm going to research more into it, and I'll get back to you for sure. I will do the follow-ups and try to assure that our village is going to be beautiful again. We're going to work hard to do that.
Okay.
All right, Mayor-elect, thank you so much for your time, and we'll keep us posted with what's going on in the village.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Time. Appreciate it.
Yes.
Okay,
I guess we'll see you at the Mayor's Council of Guam meeting, right?
Right.
Yes.
All right.
Do you know how to do the Zoom, Mayor?
It was in person.
I was just asking my wife how to. You have to download that app. So yes, I am doing it right now.
They're gonna make that part of your training.
Yes, for sure I will do that.
Okay, Mayor.
All right, take care.
Yes. Wash your hands.
Have a good day.
You too.
Be safe.
Okay.
Yeah, he's out there gonna go paint
Painting the library. Yeah. All right, let's go. We had a commitment from the Homeland Security advisor, Tim Uggan, to call in this morning. So I'm just going to go ahead and ring him.
Okay. So, yeah, Tim Uggan, he was the one individual that was not present over at the oversight hearing that was held a couple weeks ago on procurement for quarantine facilities and other issues involving the response to COVID-19. And it was Attorney Hai Hin who read a statement on behalf of, I guess, the governor, in which they indicated that Tim Uggan, I guess you could say, kind of dropped the ball on the procurement for the quarantine facilities, and that's when the governor directed Hai to pick up the ball and run with it, and so he did.
Ran very fast.
Right, but you heard the Telo Taidagui, the minority leader. Yeah. She received a text from Mr. Uggan, who said that that was absolutely untrue. Then we also heard from the Lieutenant Governor, Josh Tenorio, who also
the number you have dialed
received
does not answer. The number you have dialed does not answer.
Oh, this is Tim Uggan's number.
Okay.
Right.
This is Tim Uggan's number.
Yeah.
So the Lieutenant Governor received a phone call over the weekend from Mr. Uggan, who again told him that it was not true, and I believe the Lieutenant Governor said that he was not involved with procurement. So that's where we are.
Yeah.
And we did ask Lieutenant Governor after receiving that phone call whether or not he's had any other conversations or has brought this to the attention of the governor or Attorney Hai.
But he said no. Which is interesting. How do you not bring that up? I would have been like, "Oh, damn, Gov, did you get did Tim text you too?"
Right. So
he's texting the whole island.
So now we're just he just said that he's going to wait to see the findings of this investigation by the Office of Public Accountability, which he indicated starts today. Right.
Yeah.
And that's just one of the investigations and audits that the OPA.
number you have dialed does not answer. The number you have dialed does not answer.
Right, and let's just go ahead and talk about
you have dialed is
Tim
not
Uggan since
answering.
he's not answering his phone.
Yeah.
But Tim Uggan,
let me just give it a little background,
Right.
Bree, if you don't mind. So we have been in contact with the Homeland Security advisor. Well, I have been anyway, and he was very upset at the way he feels he was thrown under the bus at the oversight hearing. And so shortly after the oversight hearing, he had reached out to me, as he had reached out, as you heard. If you're listening to the whole show, he reached out to Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio, he reached out to Minority Leader Senator Tello Tideway, which is a pretty interesting one to cross party lines. Yeah, so he had reached out to these people and basically said, hey, that's not true. I didn't drop the ball. I don't know what High is talking about. His messages to me were pretty much the same thing. And then it got really interesting because, I'll try this.
Yeah, it got interesting because Senator Tideway was mentioning that after she had received the text message from Uggan, he deleted it. So she couldn't read it back to us. But she did want Mr. Uggan to call her, and I don't believe that he did.
We got another number for Tim here. So we're going to try this one. Yeah. So anyway, he had, let's just see if he answers first. I feel like out of loop and still everyone's just like, oh, is he going to answer? Maybe they're taking bets on it. I wonder. I think Tim makes 90,000, I want to say.
You have reached a voicemail box. Start recording at the tone. When finished, press the pound key.
Hey, Tim, it's Chris and Sabrina of Containing COVID, Guam's favorite multimedia broadcast extravaganza. We're just calling to remind you of the commitment you made to call on the show this morning and explain your side. So, again, the number is 637-0094, or you can text me as well, and we'll go ahead and clear the way. Anytime you want to go on, we'll clear the way. We don't care who's on the phone. We'll hang up and get you on to tell your side of the story, as you made that commitment to do this morning. Okay, Tim, thanks.
Okay, thanks, bye.
Yeah, so where it got interesting to me is when he last week had said, hey, I'm going to call into your show on Monday, and what he basically said was that he was going to just let it all out, tell his side, and then mic drop what we're hearing, a resignation. Mm-hmm. And so that was one thing. He said it to me, of course I told you because we're here in the show together. But then I thought was really interesting was later on in the day, people started texting me, asking me, hey, is it true that Tim Uggan is going to call the show on Monday and resign? And I was like, how are you hearing that? Of course I denied it. I was like, no, what? How are you hearing this? They're like, no, we're just... So we had found out that from sources at Guam Homeland and up there that the Homeland Security advisor was telling people that he was going to call the show, tell his side, and basically be like, I quit, I'm out of here. And then whatever. So the whole weekend I was kind of antsy about it because, that's a huge get, right? And we were kind of wondering if anyone, especially if he was going around telling everyone that he was going to call and do that, if they had got to him. That sounds scary, right? Mm-hmm. But, maybe they did get to him because, like Lieutenant Governor Josh said, there was a text that he got on Saturday. And that coupled with the text I got were basically like, hey, I'm nobody's fall guy. This is total nonsense. I want to go on and I want to clear the air and I want to give my side. And so there are a lot of questions that we do have for Mr. Uggan, but only really because he wasn't at the hearing, so nobody knows his side. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure that we're ever going to get to hear it.
Well, what's in the legislative record is you are the fall guy.
Yeah.
Unless there's another oversight hearing, that's just how the record's going to remain, at least in the legislature. And according to Senator Tello Tideway, it doesn't appear that Senator Sabina Flores will be calling another oversight hearing.
Right. I don't know. I'm going to reach out to her because she did say that she was going to call that hearing.
Right, because there were more questions that were raised during that oversight hearing.
I think that they should call an oversight hearing and they should play a little bit harder because, man.
I think it was kind of difficult, though, because when you have the AG's office not able to answer questions thoroughly,
right?
Because they are of attorney-client privilege, and they're representing the governor's office.
I just felt like in that hearing, what I took away from it, Bree, and I'm pretty sure we might agree on this, is that instead of the AG's office not answering questions or holding up the attorney-client privilege. I was under the impression that their job would be to look at this process and find out if it was legal. Am I wrong?
I don't think you're wrong.
Am I? Because I just thought that was their job, instead of like going down just defending this thing and not answering any questions on it. I thought the Attorney General, who is an elected independent Attorney General, would maybe look at this and be like, maybe I should look at this process instead of, doing everything I can to shut down questions about it.
It is what it is.
And I think now it's the point where they're just so compromised. The Attorney General's office is so compromised with this whole procurement thing because they've shown that they're on the side of Adelup. So their whole impartiality is just, it's out the door. Let's just be real. There's no way they can look at this impartially. And I'm just curious, after that first oversight hearing, if I'm a senator, I would have been like, dude, this is major. We got to look into this. I would be writing letters, hey, appoint an independent investigator, prosecutor, whatever. But, that's just me. And I'm pretty sure you guys out there agree that would have been, I don't know, probably the common sense route.
Mm-hmm.
So interesting developments here. Boy, I bet Tim Huggins' ears are burning pretty bad. But I know that he's scheduled to go back into the office today. Like you said, Bree, it is what it is, where we have clearly there's a division between the Homeland Security advisor and what was said by the governor's legal counsel. But how much of that are we going to see aired out in the public? I don't know. I'm thinking the way things are going right now this morning that they have successfully clamped a lid down on Tim Huggins.
And that particular comment, I guess, in the chronology that was provided actually really stood out to me because that was the first time that we had heard that it was supposedly the HSA's fault and the reason why Hyde came in. But then that was just the first part of that statement that kind of was a red flag for me, was when he proceeded to read the parts about GHRA and their involvement and how there was reference to Pacific Star and Perlis Court, and Perlis Court was not part of GHRA.
Right.
And Pacific Star, in previous interviews with Mary Rhodes from GHRA, she said she was not part of any of those negotiations.
Right.
And so it was interesting because during that oversight hearing,
They
Mary
said
Rhodes,
she was.
She popped into the Zoom virtual hearing, and nobody was. I wasn't expecting that because I didn't see her. Or she wasn't indicated to be on the invitation list.
Right.
And so good for her that she had the opportunity to jump in on that
Right.
and explain, what had happened. And that's not exactly what had happened.
Yeah. And, we talk with Mary all the time because she comes on the show. And I remember watching that hearing and in real time, Mary texting me like, did you hear that? She's like, I called your show how many times and said that I wasn't involved with Pacific Star, and I wasn't involved with this, I wasn't involved with that. And she was like, how do you get into this Zoom meeting? So I was like, oh, here's the senator's number. And
good for her, though. I mean, she really set the record straight, at least her part.
I mean, just think about that, Bree. If she hadn't have gone into that Zoom meeting, whatever lies or misrepresentations that were being put forth by the governor's legal office, they would have just flew and it would have been set down on the record.
Yeah.
And you saw that Adelup was trying really hard. I mean, even the policy director, Carlo Branch, he thought he was the chief procurement officer because they're asking the chief procurement officer questions and Carlo Branch is trying to answer for her. And he also thought he was the director of public health, apparently, because they had asked the director of public health, and then Carlo Branch had tried to cut in and cut her off, and Linda said, hey, no, they're asking me the question, not you. And so I just think that there were just so many red flags in this oversight hearing to not have some kind of action after it or to not have some kind of continuation where we get more answers. I mean, that's exactly what they want. I mean, let's just be real. The administration, they want to just shut the book on this and move on. And then, if it doesn't pass muster for the feds, we're just going to have to eat it, Anyway. If you guys see Tim Huggin out there, tell him Chris and Sabrina called. Okay? Call us. All right. Yeah, it's funny.
Call me.
You knew my number the last few weeks, but now that it's D-Day, it's like, I don't know, man. Tons of minutes.
Right. Well, he's already got the lieutenant governor defending him and saying that it was not true.
Right.
So
there's obviously some lines, some divisions, some. It seems pretty cliquish at Adelup, where you have, one group doing one thing and another doing another. Yeah. Hey, Jason. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. Well, one thing that you guys are intimately interested in, and by you guys, I mean our chat room and our comment stream, is they're also jumping in on this conversation. They're putting a lot of comments about what might be the motive behind it. Why is there no, they were expecting Tim to come on. They were greatly looking forward to it. Some of them are kind of disappointed by it. But one thing that people were talking about a lot yesterday, we're going to jump back to the Tim Hogan thing in just a minute, but all over social media yesterday, there were a ton of things going on yesterday. Obviously, the riots in the States, the space launch before that. So, there was a lot to talk about. Yesterday was a milestone here on Guam because, of course, in chapel services began. And did you guys watch the live stream that we did with our friends down at the Archdiocese yesterday? I think Mass yesterday had maybe about, I want to say maybe 35, 40 people inside the cathedral, which looked good. They were socially distanced.
Right.
And just to see, you could see the joy on people's faces when they received the Eucharist. And even people watching that, they're like, wow, just to be able to see that image if they weren't part of it, brought a lot of interest to people. Also, one thing that people were talking about is His Excellency Archbishop Michael Burns was using a cane when he was walking. I've reached out to the church, and nothing official yet, but they said he's all right. He did have something that obviously made him use a cane and everything like that. But for those of you wondering, there were a lot of people asking if he's okay, sending your prayers. He said he greatly appreciates it, and he's doing all right. He gave a lovely homily yesterday, but that was really good to see, especially everybody receiving, communion. I know a lot of you appreciated that. So that was one of the things that was going on.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But, yeah.
I'm trying to pull up the Department of Labor's.
And there's that, and there's what people are saying about so it's at dol.guam.gov, right?
The soft launch.
Yeah.
Is that a thing, Jay?
Yeah, you can do it. You can do a soft launch, and everybody knows what beta testing is, right? You put the app out, the website goes live, whatever like that. Mm-hmm. It's not entirely rock solid, and they say it may have some bugs, but prior to that, before beta, you have alpha.
It's hireguam.com, right? Is it
hireguam.com, yeah.
Yeah, but Jay, a soft launch, that might be good for like a website that, maybe isn't offering such a crucial service like applications for unemployment.
And that's a thing that really puzzled me, because when you put it on the World Wide Web, the moment it goes live, unless you really take precautions to either password protect it or lock it down so that when Google sees it, everybody knows, because then it's going to show up on social networks, on, search results and everything like that. So
when they announced that this was going to go live by the end of the week, remember they said it was by the end of the week. Mm-hmm. So people were, I don't know, it's crazy. They were taking the government's word for it.
And we don't have trending topics per se. I should just build that. I should say, what are the trending topics for containing COVID? We're here in the show, right? But I would just say, based on intuition and seeing all the comments last week, that of course the pool was probably the number one topic that people talked about.
Right, and so I know people who have been sitting there refreshing the website, waiting for the application to go on, and when they saw that application, what did you think they were going to do? Of course they're going to apply for it. And then it was up, and then how many hours later we get this a release out of I don't know if it was Labor Adelup, basically saying don't share unverified information. Which what the hell does that got to do with anything? You guys put an application up on a website. You told people you're going to do it, and then you're going to get mad when people start applying with the application? That doesn't make sense. Of course, people are waiting for this. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, call me crazy, but if I see an application on an official government website, then I might think that it works.
Mm-hmm. Especially when it comes to the government. There's a big difference between being, some Silicon Valley startup, operating out of some guy's garage and, a government agency.
So I'm just concerned what happens now for the people that did go on and then they applied because there was in that press release that there could be errors which could set back your application or the qualification of your application. So here it is. It says, Applications filed prior to the formal launch of the online program may result in errors that could delay the qualification process.
As if there wasn't enough of a delay already with it taking 21 days to review that.
Yeah, and
So
I know
guess
Harvey's asking a question. So for those that applied, do they need to reapply? Again, we did try to get the Department of Labor on the show this morning to provide clarity on what's happening, but he deferred and was like, well, I'm going to be at a press conference at 2 o'clock. So he wasn't
knowing
available.
full well that there was a huge grenade they dropped over the weekend, and this is all everyone's talking about.
Okay, sorry. Since you guys brought it up and everything, a lot of people were asking about that in our chat room too. Is they're saying is the 2 o'clock press conference for the Department of Labor, is that going to be part of the governor's presser, and Dave's just going to show up like at Adelup right next to the governor and Lyndon and Norsey, or is this its own dedicated Department of Labor thing? Because people were asking us, I want to watch it. Obviously you guys are going to carry it.
Yeah.
Or, we're going to bend the island, turn the island upside down so we can live stream it because everybody wants to know about that. But have they said exactly where it's going to be?
I don't know. I know that they were.
We know what and when.
Gov press con.
It is the governor's press conference. Okay, so there you go, you guys.
Okay.
That's from Nestor. So Nestor must have heard it from somebody at Adelup.
Right. Okay, so yeah, that's the.
And it just makes sense,
That's the deal. What's going to happen? I guess we'll find out if you have to apply again. The normal process, again, with Dave from Labor, it said that when you turn in the app, it's going to take them 21 days, up to 21 days.
Right, he said that's the standard. It's 21 days to vet it and for a check to be cut, but he's going to try and work really hard to lessen
Those were
that
his
time
exact
frame.
words last time he came on the show. He goes, I'm really going to try and shorten that.
Yeah,
Shorten that
and I'm
turnaround
kind
time.
of glad we asked because we didn't know. We thought it was just like a
wham bam.
fill out your whiz bam boom, but no, whiz bam boom.
Whiz bam boom.
Okay, there is one more thing, if I may, but I don't know if we got to go to break. I forwarded you guys this in our group chat because Senator Clint Ridgell, a good friend of ours, he was saying the stuff about the pig derby meat.
Mm-hmm.
You guys want me to read that? It's a real short. Okay, so
just real quickly though, before we change subjects,
yes,
there's
please.
going to be an oversight hearing. I believe Senator Regine Visco-Lee scheduled one. I want to say it's for tomorrow, but sometime this week over the Department of Labor and the whole PUA situation.
Oh, so this thing's lining up to be like a series of Zooms, if not like in-person sessions.
I don't know about a series, but there's an oversight hearing.
Okay. Okay. So the pig derby, right? Immediate distribution of whole unprocessed pig meat for private consumption will begin today, 1st of June at 10 in the morning at the Yigo Gym and down in the south at the Talafofo Police Koban. Once again, up in Yigo at the Villages Gym and down in Talafofo at the Police Koban, starting at 10 a.m. Distribution of whole unprocessed pig meat, which went on by that very special pig derby, which was held. Those interested will receive safe handling guidelines and then must sign a waiver of liability. If you have any information, you can call the office of Senator Clint Ridgell. That number is 475-4983. I'm going to throw it in the comments so you guys can be able to see that. But once again, call Senator Ridgell's office, 475-4983, 10 a.m. if you would like pig meat from this past weekend's derby up at the Yigo Gym and the Talafofo Police Koban beginning at 10 a.m., which also happens to be right when we go off the air. So as soon as you're done with our show, go out and get some pig meat. Bacon.
The number you have dialed does not
I'm
answer.
sorry, I wanted to call Tim Uggan one more
The
time.
number you have dialed is not answering. Please try later. The number you have dialed is not answering. Please try later.
I mean, what'd you think though, Bree? Did you think he was going to resign this morning?
I didn't think he was going to call.
Right, you're right. I was hopeful. I'm the optimist out of us two.
I'm the realist.
Yeah. I was like, no, of course he's going to call because he wants to clear his name.
No.
Or else he's just going to have this cloud hanging over his name.
Once I heard that this was going around.
Oh, man,
I knew that,
everybody was talking about this. Right.
Okay, so there's a reason why it's going around because you want it to go around.
Right. And you want and so, yeah, I mean, from a negotiating standpoint, if he had spread the rumor that he was going to call and resign on this morning's Containing COVID show, I mean, that's basically what he said, then, yeah, he probably wanted people to know he was going to call and resign so that Adelup could make that approach and be like, hey, we heard you're going to call and resign. And then, I don't know, that's when you ask for more money, Bree. Hey, how about one of those pay adjustments? You guys got any of those pay adjustments to throw my way, or So yeah, that's the situation. It's 9:03. We'll take a little break and come back with more of the KUAM News Takeover, Guam's favorite. It is containing COVID. KUAM FM, Hagatni Guam. Good morning.
Keeping you informed, KUAM News brings you Banking 671, brought to you by the Bank of Guam, the People's Bank, and Coast 360 Federal Credit Union. Together, we thrive.
KUAM News COVID-19 Takeover on I-94 FM is presented locally by Ambrose Inc.
GU Self-Storage, conveniently located near the Harmon McDonald's. We offer affordable rates, online payments, and auto bill pay for your convenience. Plus gate access daily from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Call us today at 648-7867 for more information. We hope that you and your loved ones are safe and healthy during the COVID-19 pandemic. It has been a challenging time for all, but now, more than ever, our cancer patients and caregivers need us. Although we are apart, we stand united in the fight against cancer. The American Cancer Society Guam is excited to announce our first virtual Relay for Life. Join us on Saturday, June 27th at 6:30 p.m. on KUAM TV 8, as well as on I-94 FM and streaming on KUAM News digital platforms. Cancer does not stop, and neither can we. On June 27th, let's celebrate together and fight cancer. Visit relayforlife.org/GuamGU to find out how you can participate in the 2020 virtual Relay for Life Guam.
Be healthy. Be informed with ITD.
It's not always easy trying something new. Sometimes you have to help your loved ones along. Nana is so used to her weekly trips to the bank that going online can be a little scary for her. But her grandson knows that banking online is safer and easier. So he's teaching her how to get started using Bank of Guam's online banking videos. Teaching is one way to show our loved ones we care. Keep your family safe at home and show them how to bank online. Find easy-to-use online banking tutorials at bankofguam.com or on our Instagram and Facebook pages. Bank of Guam, member FDIC.
Be healthy. Be informed with ITD.
Let's talk with Dr. Jana Maglotnia. But first, let's go to the phones where we have Abby who's on the line here. Hey, and remember, we want to hear from you guys, 637-0094. Abby. Good morning, Abby.
Morning.
So
Hi, Abby.
you have a question about the stimulus. Which one?
Yes, mine is short. They cut mine. And I have a question about it. Is it about the age? Like they say mine, because my son is 17.
Right. Yeah, son's got to be 16. So were you expecting an extra $500 and you didn't get it?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's all I need to know. I thought there, something about child support, but it's not. I called them up and they say it's about, if it's 16 down, yes, you will be eligible.
Right. So how long, when did you get your stimulus check?
Last week.
And
I received the letter after last week.
that letter was from the governor and lieutenant governor, correct?
Yes.
And it basically said, hey, we're giving you a stimulus check.
Yes, and they're explaining about why mine is cut, And I say, they didn't say about the age. They say child support, due to the outstanding child support. I said I never child support, so I called them up to ask questions, and that's what I get. It's because of the age.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So were you out of work, Abby?
Yes, a furlough now.
Tell us, take us back to the beginning, because I'm curious about your situation. So the COVID hit, we went into a public health emergency. Where were you working at, and how were you furloughed?
Weston.
And they basically, what do? They said, hey, we're closed.
Yeah, like right now we're not closed, not lay off, but we're just, maybe gonna start next week.
And so how many weeks have you been? You've been furloughed this whole time?
Yes.
How did you survive, Abby?
I just I'm waiting for, I have a SNAP.
Did you go to any of the grab and go?
No.
No.
Do you have transportation?
Yes.
And so was it difficult for you, Abby? I mean, it's a stupid question, but
Yes, it is. I need, the money to buy something, because all of the money I used to pay, the bills that I need to pay, and then now I'm
nothing broke, right? Yeah. So what bills did you have to pay?
Everything, like at least I put something in each, I have to pay like the rent, internet, power, car.
Did you get any of that other program, the programan ajuda ni Tauta Salapi ni Poundacon?
No.
You didn't get that one, because I think if you're a SNAP recipient, you were
automatically eligible.
But nothing yet.
Right, I see. All right. Well, I know were you anticipating having that extra $500 because of your son?
No, I'm just, just want to find out if it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the money, it's not for, it's not for everybody for this emergency or this situation. I thought it's for everybody, not the age they're, talking like they're going to be, not for the 17, 18.
Right. So that $1,200 stimulus check, is that pretty much gone for you, Abby, or?
Yes. Because I pay for the other stuff and then my food, but because my SNAP is only $50.
$50
a month.
Well, and so you're going back to work then?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. What are you looking at? Are you going to be working full hours, or what are they saying to you?
No, not full hours. We cannot make full hours because we're gonna, apply the unemployment.
Well, good luck with that. The application should be up on the website, so you can go on the internet and apply.
Yeah, but I need help. I don't have cell phone. I don't have computer. I need to go to work and then get help.
Yeah. Do you think the government has worked for you? All the programs that are in place, do you feel like your leaders have taken care of you?
No, it's too late and it's too, it's hard.
So if there is a message that you could send to your elected leaders, what would you say to them?
Just do their job, like, I don't know what to say. It's like to do their job, right and fast.
There you go. Do it right and do it fast.
Yeah.
Good advice. Thank you, Abby.
Thank you.
And you keep us posted, okay?
All right. Thank you,
Okay.
guys.
Okay.
Okay.
Take care.
Bye.
9:14. Let's keep it on the phones here and go and get Dr. Maglonia on the line from Public Health. Good morning, Doc.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Of course.
Thanks for calling in. Would you like to start with the community testing? You guys are really going to start ramping up things starting Wednesday, and I guess seems like the entire month of June.
Yes, it's going to be a busy month with the test kits. Also, I wanted to point out, too, that some of this has not been posted to the GovGuam web or the DPHSS website. It's partial, but we've added so much that will be updated. But there's a telephone number if anyone has any questions, they can call. But we've got, I think, the director may have forwarded a copy of the test site. There were about 10 of them, and it looks like it's going to impact Yigo, Gurat, Dedido, Sananya, Vergata, Inarahan, Mangmang, Totomaiti, Maritzo, PT, Santa Rita, and Tamuning. So busy schedule.
Yeah. Okay.
When will we get you off? Which one of those will pick you off? I don't have one for the radio station.
I know. We were wondering. We thought we were going to get a drive-up testing. You can drive up here. Present your nostrils.
I think we're just. Oh no, can't say that. Sorry. Yes, nostrils.
How did last week's testing go?
Okay. Well, good response, and it's nice to have a good response and not have a big burst of cases. So that's a good thing.
Right. Yeah, and I think there was just one, I believe, with a homeless male.
Yeah, and the little cluster that we had talked about before, when that was a very targeted. We had reasons for going in. This is just throwing out a wide net to catch a lot of fish. That when we do targeted, we might pick up a higher number than we throw out a big net. But this is going to be a big net, and it's an island-wide net, and it will let us know what's out there, what's the value of it. If you have symptomatic people, those people are tending to go to their physicians anyway, but if not, we can pick them up. This will also pick up people that have had symptoms or don't have any anymore, or it could be asymptomatic people that are spreading or asymptomatic people that are over it. We don't know yet what we'll get, but that's the reason we're going out there to do the search, to just see where it is and what we're dealing with.
Mm-hmm. And today, we did have people, if you could just provide clarity on the whole situation with the returning Guam residents and the home quarantine. Is there any other information you can provide on that? Like, I know there's a situation with an individual that we spoke with last week, James, right? James, right, his wife flew in from Japan. She had two negative test results, and I'm not sure if they were PCR or if they were the specimen. But she came to Guam to pick up her children. She's a doctor in Japan. I'm not sure if she would be one of those people that would be eligible for this home quarantine, because she's not exactly a returning Guam resident, but she's here on a mission to pick up her kids and bring them back, I guess, to Japan.
Okay. The current executive order it's about to be modified. We all met yesterday, large group of people, and people zoomed in for the meeting at Adelup and discussed where to from here. How do we modify our current plan? And those things will be changing and will be coming out maybe even today or tomorrow. They're trying to move it out fast, but that will be a little more flexible for returning residents soon, probably this week. You will get revised guidelines where people who have homes here or apartments here will have a little more latitude. Although anyone who's coming back, no matter where you're coming from, if you request to go to the quarantine facility because you really are uncomfortable going home and maybe exposing other people, you will have the opportunity to use the government facility if that's what you choose. Right now, the current executive order is probably going to catch someone like that who's doing a turnaround. Transitors can go through, but if you're going to overnight, you probably are caught by the executive order. It's not a public health order. It's public health enforcing the executive order. So we've had to make certain exceptions for people that were ill and coming back to see ill people, and that's the thing. They've tried to include those people, and with all due diligence they can give without being unfair to others. But yes, it's been difficult, very challenging for the quarantine people. They've been threatened, and they don't have the opportunity to bend the executive order without someone above them saying, okay, make that exception or whatever. And it's fairly rigid right now. So there will be more flexibility in the one that's coming out. And
so is this a guidance or another executive order?
I think it's going to be a modification. I'm not sure what the verbiage will be on it, but it will probably to modify the current one to, I think the way it's going to be headed, I think, is returning residents. There will be no testing if you're coming from certain areas and you're returning residents. If you're coming from no testing, you just go home and quarantine. Because why is quarantine so important? Because that's the only thing that has stopped it anywhere is quarantine, because there is no vaccine, there is no medicine. So what makes this thing go away? Tincture of time. And what scientific evidence has shown is that 14 days will fairly well cover the majority of the people in the majority of cases. Actually, the majority maybe even covered at 11, but we want to get through the outliers that go out through to the 14th day, and we've seen that. In quarantine, I think Chima Mbakwa had said yesterday that since we started quarantine, he's picked up 38 cases because of quarantine. Now, they say that one person can infect 2 or 3. His numbers, and this is just a ballpark, he said, we're looking, and he said it off the cuff. He wasn't looking at papers, but he said, I think one person here hits 10 or 15 because of social gatherings and things like that. That's been our experience in bingo and churches and schools and family functions. We tend to gather a lot for those. So if that's true, we may have saved 380 cases on the first go around, and then their 380 contacts or 380 people with their 10 contacts. It just takes one case to set the stage for another wave. Mm-hmm. So the quarantine's been effective, and so we don't see any reason to waive that because that's the only thing that's helped us. But at least people can go home and isolate in their home until they feel like they're safe.
Mm-hmm. Was that 38? That number was that the total number of people that have arrived to Guam that were in quarantine that tested positive?
I didn't pin him down on it because I looked back at the traveler number off the dashboard, and so I don't know if he meant. No one pinned him down because he was just talking so fast. Right. We picked up, but I know they picked up, and maybe he said 8 because with a mask on and with any accent, it's like, did you say you're committing suicide or I just won the lottery? I can't tell. It's crazy. And he has I have a thick redneck accent. He's got a thick not redneck accent. So it's sort of tricky in hearing his words. But we did. I know for a fact we did pick up cases in quarantine. At least 8 that I can recall.
This routine was this meeting yesterday a routine type of meeting, or was this a new meeting?
No, it was not a routine at all. The PAG group, the Physicians Advisory Group, does meet 2 to 3 times a week, and sometimes we will have a special meeting if there's a special concern. And this one was special because we wanted to input from everyone and talk about because we're heading into a fork in the road, and so we're like, bring everyone. Let's have everyone's input and talk about schools, talk about incoming passengers. I think international, we will still require a PCR test. And why will that be important? That does one thing. For example, let's say you got exposed. You won't probably get symptoms for about day 5. So let's say you go to the airport in any country and you're exposed to a case while you're standing there at the airport. Or even 2 days before you get there. If you had a test right then, it will probably show negative. And then by the time you get wherever you're going, by about day 5, you're going to start being symptomatic. And your shedding has already started before that time, more than likely. So when they get to wherever they're going, they're going to go, don't worry, I test negative. That negative test only means something right that minute.
Right.
And so it doesn't have a lot of value. Positive, any test that's positive has great value. A negative test, it's hold that thought. Okay, that's good for right now, but so what the PCR test will do for any incoming, let's say we have 1,000 people coming in, I guarantee you, if you do PCR testing on that 1,000, you're going to pick up somebody positive, at least one. And that one person won't be getting on the plane with everyone else who clearly has enough viral load to light up a test. At least the other people coming from the international sites will board that plane knowing at least everyone they're sitting next to is negative at that moment. So they'll probably have even if they're infected, it's probably a low viral load. It wasn't enough for the machine to pick it up. So what it will do is weed out the positives before they even board a plane. So that's good. We'll get rid of that. Because a couple weeks ago, like I said, we had a CDC person come in from Hawaii, and 2 people were positive on the plane.
Wow.
Oh.
Yes. So
2 people were positive on the plane when they came in?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Riding with her on the plane. Yes.
Was that reflected in the
Oh, yeah. And we count, every case is counted. Yes. Every case is counted. And I don't know, this is where Chima would help. When did they pick them up? Probably when they went to quarantine and were symptomatic. Right. And that's probably 2 of the 8. But the good news is she wore a respirator the entire flight. How in God's name she did that, I don't know, because they're so, you smother after a while. And I think it may have been a 777, and there were only about 20 some passengers on it. So everyone was spaced, crazy spaced, 3 rows apart. So transmission would have been really reduced in that setting, but still, those 2 people wouldn't have made it on the plane at all had we been requiring testing at that point. So that's the value of it. It will get rid of all the positives at that moment that are trying to board.
Were there any other issues that were brought up during this meeting aside from quarantine?
Oh, we hit on everything. We looked at everything, how we're going to move forward. That's the whole topic, is moving forward, and we have plans, and those will all be unfolding, but everything that we can think of moving forward, and to try to keep, it was the whole balloon of all of it, and with business people zoomed in, and physicians, and the governor, and everybody. Sometimes when you have a small group, you'll hear people say, oh, I'll talk to the director about that, and so they make a note. It's nice to have the director, the deputy director, head of quarantine, CDC. It was nice to have everyone, all hands on deck. Right. And because everyone has a different perspective, and different thoughts about things that maybe the next person wouldn't have considered. And we had pediatricians there and talked about schools and that sort of thing. So I think you will be seeing official documents coming out that reflect the group, this not decision, but the group input.
Mm-hmm. What was the group called?
It wasn't a group. It was like it started off just as our physicians group, and we're like, hey, let's add so and so, let's add so and so, and so we just kept adding key people, the airport, just different groups. It wasn't really. We don't really have a name for it because it just happened yesterday, and because sometimes in our meetings we'll say, hey, let's have so and so here next week and bring them in and ask them about quarantine and isolation and what the procedures are, and so. This time, because it was a bigger balloon, we're like, hey, why don't we get so-and-so and so-and-so? And I didn't have my glasses on, so I don't even know who all was zoomed in. But I could see little boxes up there with heads on it. So they were there.
I'm the same way.
We wanted to bring up this thing, and I know we had discussed this a little bit over the weekend, but we had got a tip about a 12-year-old, and the info that we had got from the tip was that this 12-year-old boy had passed from COVID, and I'm just going to share with you what I got from Lillian Posadas at the Guam Memorial Hospital. So I messaged her yesterday. Good morning, Lillian. Getting tips about a 12-year-old passing from COVID. Anything on this? I remember we did have a 12-year-old positive. Just hearing from some sources, wondering if you could confirm or not confirm. She responded, good morning, Chris. It's not COVID, and it's not the same 12-year-old. Not COVID. And so then I had asked her to kind of elaborate on, why we'd be getting a tip like that. And she said, Chris, in exercising extreme precautionary measures, we placed the 12-year-old in the COVID Care 3 unit. And although tests and repeated tests all came back negative, we continued to place patient in the COVID Care 3 unit. And so I wanted to get you on because you had said that you could shed a little bit more light on this case.
Let's talk about that. And she's right. I forgot. We did have, when you just said that, I thought, how's this one getting confused? We did have a 12-year-old, I think, or a young boy or girl. I can't remember.
I think it was a young boy, Doc, who had come in with symptoms at GRMC. He was then transferred to GMH, and then the grandfather had tested positive, but he was asymptomatic. So I automatically assumed it was the same kid.
Aside, because that one probably, because the ages are similar, that may be why that's part of some of the overlap or confusion, because that was a case. This is a different case, and let me tell you, when people come in, right now, if you come in and say, I'm short of breath, I'm this, and you have a fever, you will probably be admitted to GMH until you're ruled out. Some people aren't stable enough once they're ruled out to go to GRMC. We've had a couple cases that it was riskier to move them. And so probably in this case, because the child was sick, they probably just isolated him because that's the COVID facility. And now you got a case there that's not COVID. So they had to treat it in a room that was isolated, just like all the COVID patients. And so they ruled it out just to make sure, but he was kept in that same area. So everyone probably thought that. And again, it's a different case from the first one. And although it proved not to be, but it was, when they're really sick, you're not going to move someone to GRMC just because that's the non-COVID facility. You have to deal with it right where you are, because sometimes moving is very traumatic to patients, and they're temporarily placed on, if they're on a ventilator, which in this case I'm not sure, but if they're on a ventilator, it's tricky to move a ventilator patient to another facility just because. So it was easier just to keep, when they're really sick, keep them safe, isolate them from everyone, and so and that's an isolation facility, so it made it a little easier for them to do that. So that patient was initially and kept in isolation. So I'm sure that's where that came from. Plus, they were ruling it out, and ultimately expired, but due to non-COVID issues. and what kind of issues can a child have, without going into the specifics of this case. In general, things that affect the lungs, like asthma, if people have an exacerbation of that, that's one thing that can hasten the demise of a child, or cardiac issues. And it's not just, gee, they've got a bad heart. You can get heart infections that even go crazy and affect your heart function and may not result in a good outcome. Infections of any kind that overwhelm the system can do it. And then the kidneys take a hit, the heart takes a hit. So you can have things that on kids that go a little bit south on you, and you wouldn't normally see that in a child, but you might in an elderly person. So there are a lot of other things. You've got blood cancers, lymphomas, leukemias, and there's usually a really clear reason when it's a child because they're so healthy otherwise. And in this case, it was non-COVID. It's going to be in something in that other bucket that didn't go well.
Right, Doc. And so, as we understand that the child passed away from cardiorespiratory arrest, but it was brought on by a multi-system inflammatory syndrome from COVID.
Ruled out. That was
ruled out?
Thought. Mm-hmm. Yes, that was initial thought because when they come in like that, we're all thinking COVID now, and so that was an initial thought. They said, could this be? And then as we looked at the criteria, or as they looked at the criteria and visited and then saw that it was not a COVID patient, then you have to be a COVID patient to qualify for that diagnosis, and this was a non-COVID patient, so couldn't make it fit. And alternatively, there was an illness that was identified that completely explained it, completely.
And so when you say ruled out, are you saying that you can do that after, let's say, it was on a death certificate as the cause of death, and it's in writing, and then you come back and it was ruled out, and then a doctor we'd have to do a whole nother death certificate? Is that usually, is that how it works? Or would you rule that out before signing or before a death certificate is filled out?
Usually when you do the death certificate, you have everything, mostly everything you need when they're inpatients. There might be, when you have people brought to, I've been in a situation before where I was brought people to the ER and there's nothing, there's no document, they're not known patients, and you have to come up with something, and you can't put cardiopulmonary arrest. They want an exact diagnosis. And my father's a case. He just passed away here at 101 and a half years of age. And I was wondering what they were going to put on the death certificate because he had no diagnoses. I mean, you don't get to be 101 and a half with a lot of diagnoses. So my sister and I were wondering what they were going to put, and they put something down, but he's never had a history of what they put down. So, but it was their best guess. That's sometimes you don't have all the pieces of the puzzle, and you're not going to do an autopsy on someone his age. And so that's when it just hits you in the ER. On the other hand, when you have someone you followed in the hospital, you've been able to rule out those things before you fill it out.
Right. So, Doc,
so that would have been indicated. I mean, that wouldn't have been on the death certificate if, in fact, that this person did not die from.
In general, it should not have been. Yeah, and if someone filled it on incorrectly, they could modify it. Absolutely.
And that's totally normal.
Actually, we did have to modify my father's, not for that. We just left that because it was as good a guess as any. But for other things on the certificate, we had to modify it. So it was a simple thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
So where does the...
But it may be a simple thing to do, but when you talk to the family and say the family's notified that, he died from COVID, and there's those protocols that are in place when someone passes away from COVID where you have to do, the body has to be cremated, I understand, within 24 hours or buried. And then all of a sudden you notify the family, well, we've made a modification that your child didn't die from COVID, or
Okay.
this person didn't die from COVID. See what I'm saying? Like, it just
Yes.
seems
Yeah.
for
It's
somebody
a
to
terrible
tell.
time.
Yeah.
It's a terrible time for anyone in that setting, and then to have to rethink it. Yes, that's not good.
So, Doc, I mean, you're basically, as we've heard from Lillian, that this the child was placed in the COVID care unit,
right?
And so, just going back to everybody knowing that, would there be any disconnect between the hospital staff that took care of the child and the doctors who sign off on the cause of death? Would they be justified to put something like COVID on a death certificate, or are they out of the loop? Or I'm just trying to wrap my mind around how. I mean, 'cause it looks like COVID. They're in a COVID ward. Cause of death maybe COVID, and now you're saying that we can go back and change that. You know what I mean? It looked, the optics of it.
What happens is that some people are in isolation because they have something they can spread to others. Some people are in isolation, like chemo patients, who cannot be around anything, and so they're put in for their own protection because what you might bring in just as a common germ. Even chemo, a lot of people on medicines that suppress their immune systems, they aren't able to eat bean sprouts, leafy vegetables, fruits, fresh, everything has to be cooked, pepper, anything with mold or bacteria on it, and all those things have that. They can't eat those because what it might do to them. So first of all, it's when they first roll in, you go, oh, it looks like it could be COVID. You haven't done any tests at all, just some basic labs, and you put that person in a room that protects them from others and protects others from them until you're still holding it in your hands going, what do we got here? What do we got here? Then you go, oh, this person has this on the x-ray. Oh, let's get that test. Oh, let's do a COVID test. Okay, get that test. And so with medicine, you tend to do the safest thing you can do right now. Hold that thought while I do this. And then the plot thickens and the picture starts developing and taking shape. And you go, okay, we've ruled out this. We've got this. Sick patient, don't move it. Keep it there. At least the patient's protected while you're doing all your other tests. And as other tests rolled in, that patient, when all the pieces came together, they went, oh, definitely not COVID. This person has this diagnosis, and this is what's happening.
Right.
And so that's what they were treated for. But when you first bring all the decision making in the ER is twofold. Bring them in, get them home. That's all you have to do in an ER. You do not have to make a diagnosis in an emergency room. That is not their job. All they're looking is to see, like, sometimes I would have people come in the ER and say, how's my cholesterol? I don't know. I'm dealing with your heart attack right now. Cholesterol is something you can scratch your head and ask next week when you're stable.
Right.
But the ER is admit or discharge. And then you go, oh, this one's coming in. And then the floor will ask you, what do you got? Well, I don't know. It could be this, but it's all yours. Take it. And so then the floor takes it and puts them in the safest environment for them and starts the process. And what you think, you would be surprised the diagnosis they come in with. How many times they come in, diabetics, they come in, their heart rate will be fast, they're in congestive heart failure. Are you having chest pain? No, I'm not. And then sometimes they even might have a low grade temperature, and so the working diagnosis is probably flu syndrome. But you always go ahead and get cardiac enzymes because diabetics may not have chest pain as a symptom of their heart disease. So the cardiac enzymes, I've had them come back off the chart, and then all of a sudden changes the whole thing. Not flu syndrome, just nausea, vomiting, shortness of breath, and sweat is not the flu. You're having a massive heart attack. I have had that happen countless times, and actually I've seen people lose their license over it because they didn't think it, and they came in later not alive.
Right.
There are diagnoses that are, you have to think of everything when they come in, because when you think of the human body, what do we have? 20 symptoms for 2 million illnesses, Fever, yes. Fever, no. Nausea, yes. Nausea, no. Chest pain, yes. Light switch. And you only have a few in your hand, and you have to narrow it down as quickly as you can to try, because you're playing catch up. Something's already ahead of you by the time they come in the ER, and you've got to run to catch it before it catches them. And so you act as quickly as possible in the ER and let the floor take it over.
Right, Doc. So it sounds like there's a lot of process. I mean, it's oversimplification, but there's a lot of process of elimination that goes on. But so knowing that, what happens when we have all these different processes that went on and COVID was ruled out, but then you get the doctors who, maybe what if the death certificate says COVID? Then how do you reconcile that? That's what I was talking about. Is there a breakdown in communication with what happens with the patient there? And we ruled out COVID, but then when they get it over to whoever certifies the cause of death, they're like, oh, it looks like COVID.
I think they would have to go back and revisit that if that's the case, because if it's not, in fact, the case that we're talking about had an exact diagnosis, so that made it a lot more simple in this case because of that. When there is a diagnosis and you've ruled out one and you've already ruled in the other with clinical criteria, you're done. Now, if something gets put on a death certificate that's incorrect, that can always be modified.
Okay, so it looks like that might have to be what's going to happen here.
So it sounds like you may have gotten word that COVID ended up on the death certificate. I don't know, because I haven't seen it, but does it sound like that may be...
That's what it sounds like, yes.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
It is clearly indicated on documents that we have obtained.
Okay, well, the information that I was given was that it was all non-COVID, and that's information from the lab evaluation and information on what the exact diagnosis was. So I wouldn't be able to explain. I can tell you this: if I knew, if I thought it really was a COVID death, and everyone thought that, we would have no hesitation in saying that. I mean, there's no reason not to. Mm-hmm. But the information I got is that that was not the case. But if it were, it would be listed as that and would be treated as that. But that's not the information that I have on hand right now. That's not what I've been told. So, interesting if that ended up on a document. If it's truly not COVID, the document will have to be modified.
Right. And has that kind of thing happened? I mean, do you have any knowledge of that? Has there been other examples where a death certificate or whatever has said COVID and then it's modified?
No, none that I'm aware of. But we've only had 5 anyway, so it would be a real easy thing to know. But no, everyone's been... No, the community embraces it. If we've lost 5 wonderful people due to this, and there's no reason to shroud it in secrecy or anything. There isn't. There's no reason. I mean, if we had 20 deaths, we had 20 deaths, and the island would suffer more. But no, this case, as I'm told by some really reliable sources, non-COVID, and honestly. If it were COVID, we would say it. I wouldn't sit here and say I can't share that information.
Right.
We can share it. We're making everything public. Yeah. And really too, if you want to, I don't know, have you explored our
SIT report?
Our dashboard on the SIT report's good, but also. Something I just noticed, I was like, geez, where's the ethnicity on these? It's not on the SIT rep, but if you go to the dashboard on the DPHS website, at the bottom of that map that pops up on the dashboard, you'll see little arrows. Yeah. And I'm looking at the cumulative case count. I click on the arrow, then it comes out male, female, believe it or not, 50-50. Then the next screen, as you keep going, it's by age group. Then the next one's ethnicity. And that is not on the SIT. Both of those together give you a wealth of information. But those little arrows are hard to see. At the bottom of that, I hear your phone ringing. You'll have to get off.
Oh no, I totally dig the sit report. Ever since you turned me on to that, I've been like on that sit report.
Put it in the dashboard, because this dashboard thing, I think they added a couple weeks ago, and the little arrows at the bottom, you can go back and forward, and it gives you information that's not even on the sit rep. Like you won't see ethnicity on the sit rep except for the travel related cases. But if you go to this dash is incredible. It really it's really nice at what the Epi team has done. So yeah, but you want to play around with that one too.
Yeah, one thing though is it doesn't. It's hard to make those comparisons between like what the dashboard of the sit report says the day before or when something changes, and so I'm constantly having to print out the sit reports at least on a day-to-day basis so that I can make the comparison to the previous day and see where the changes are.
Exactly, I do too. Same thing, because it's a day-to-day report. Whereas if you look at the dashboard, it might give you a cumulative picture a little better.
Yeah.
Both reports together have a lot of information for people who want to look at those details, and you all do. I know you do. So. So check the dashboard map. When you click on COVID-19 on our website, you'll see the link at the top for COVID-19 Daily Sit Rep. But it shows you the link for community testing, though we've expanded it even beyond that right now. That'll have to be updated. But you'll see a map, and it looks like a very harmless little map. But then scroll down and look at the arrows, and then start scrolling through, and you'll see information that is not on the sit rep. It's a more cumulative picture, whereas the sit rep's a daily picture. So the two together should give you a lot of information.
Yeah, Bria is always on this. It's her homepage.
That's good though. I mean, when in our lifetime have we ever seen anything like this? I mean, I didn't even know. Sit rep didn't even come out of my mouth till this year. I've never even said those words, when have I ever said KUAM before?
Right, yeah, well, hey, it's a blessing that we've been brought together like this, so.
I know. I said one more visit and you're going to have to rename it Redneck Media. It's not funny.
Yeah, it's not funny, don't laugh.
Why are you laughing?
Thank you, Doc. We appreciate your time.
Oh, no, I just need another half an hour.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I'm down.
She needs her own show.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Of course. Thanks for shedding light on that, and wash your hands.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
9:51. Yeah, very interesting.
If you can, dphss.guam.gov. Lots of information from the situation report that we call the sit report to the dashboard. It breaks down the
sit
COVID
rep.
cases.
Okay, you guys have no idea how much Sabrina is fangirling over the sit rep like every single day. Chris just said it's a homepage. I mean, some people are into like eHollywood News, some people are into ESPN. She's into the sit reps. I mean, and she goes over it. Immediately she shares it with us in our group chat. She breaks it down, says, here's what the calculus was between the change between yesterday's numbers and today's numbers. But just the fact that we have something like this and it's updated as often as it is fantastic. It's a wonderful tool.
I had a question in the press conference, and it was something with the sit rep. And one of the other media had messaged me after, like, hey, wow, you really read that, man. Good looking out. And I was like, yeah, that's all Sabrina.
But, there's one thing I did want to ask Dr. Manglonia. Maybe I can...
It's a good thing you waited for her to hang up to ask.
Maybe I can ask her, like, next time. Because, I mean, it's such a wonderful resource, and it's formatted really nicely, and it's accessible in a sense that, like, anybody can pick it up and, get a really good idea of what's going on.
Okay, what wins the internet? The DPHSS dashboard sit rep or Department of Labor's apply, don't apply? Soft launch.
Oh,
we're gonna go with the dashboard.
I'm gonna say for now that the sit rep only because of it's got less problems.
Right.
It's less problem. I mean, maybe we'll see after today at 2 o'clock.
So nice.
But one thing I want to ask Dr. Mangolini is next time we get her on is it's so good like that. Being a woman of science, does she also plan to actually have the raw data be downloadable by anybody? Because like our friend, another doctor, Peter Lombard, and everything, he's done independent analysis of this stuff just by gathering and taking it. And there's a lot of people out there, data dorks like me. There's a ton of us on the island who would just love to put this stuff in a spreadsheet and crunch the numbers, you may be able to find.
Sound a little too excited about putting something in a spreadsheet.
No, okay, well, this is what I geek out on. You guys fanboy and fangirl over the sit rep. I would like to play with the raw data, and but it is possible, and that's why we live in really.
If I had $1 for every time you said you want to play with your raw data, I mean.
I bet you never say that on the air 20 years ago.
What are we talking about here?
No, we went left. So, okay,
that's not a good note.
9:53. We are going to end on a good note. We're going to take a break and come back and end the show on a good note. Again, it's the KUAM News Takeover, Guam's favorite. Good morning.
Keeping you informed, KUAM News brings you Banking 671, brought to you by the Bank of Guam, the People's Bank, and Coast 360 Federal Credit Union. Together, we thrive.
KUAM News COVID-19 Takeover on I-94 FM is presented locally by Ambrose Inc.
GU Self-Storage, conveniently located near the Harmon McDonald's. We offer affordable rates, online payments, and auto bill pay for your convenience. Plus gate access daily from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Call us today at 648-7867 for more information. We hope that you and your loved ones are safe and healthy during the COVID-19 pandemic. It has been a challenging time for all, but now, more than ever, our cancer patients and caregivers need us. Although we are apart, we stand united in the fight against cancer. The American Cancer Society Guam is excited to announce our first virtual Relay for Life. Join us on Saturday, June 27th at 6:30 p.m. on KUAM TV 8, as well as on I-94 FM and streaming on KUAM News digital platforms. Cancer does not stop, and neither can we. On June 27th, let's celebrate together and fight cancer. Visit relayforlife.org/GuamGU to find out how you can participate in the 2020 virtual Relay for Life Guam.
Be healthy. Be informed with ITD.
It's not always easy trying something new. Sometimes you have to help your loved ones along. Nana is so used to her weekly trips to the bank that going online can be a little scary for her. But her grandson knows that banking online is safer and easier. So he's teaching her how to get started using Bank of Guam's online banking videos. Teaching is one way to show our loved ones we care, keep your family safe at home, and show them how to bank online. Find easy-to-use online banking tutorials at bankofguam.com or on our Instagram and Facebook pages. Bank of Guam, member FDIC.
Calling all graduating seniors. Join us by showing your class pride in the celebration caravan you deserve through the island's major thoroughfares. KUAM and its partners want to recognize your accomplishments and help celebrate this pivotal moment in your lives. To participate, email promotions@kuam.com and let's get this show on the road. Special thanks to ABC Stores Guam and The Dungeon.
And then again, Pago 957. Hey, thank you, man, to all of our viewers and listeners on the KUM News on Facebook. Just know that you're in rarefied air. Edward R. Murrow award-winning social media networks. Also, KUM TV 11, thank you so much for watching, especially here on the radio. Thanks for listening to Guam's favorite I-94, 957 and counting. As always, a lot of stuff happens in the show, and we always try to end it on a good note, which is so easy to do because there's so many people out there who are doing little things to make Guam a better place during this time of the COVID. And so we want to bring...
Every time you say that, it gets the COVID.
The COVID. I want to bring Rebecca on. Rebecca, now, hi, good morning. This is really cool what you did, and we're going to pop up the pictures. But, you know, a lot of people are talking about graduations, right? And how the kids don't have the ceremony that they're used to. I mean, it's a worldwide problem. But I think one thing, at least I overlooked, was the prom thing.
Yes.
And so you did this cool thing where you and some of your girlfriends put on prom.
Prom by mom.
Prom by mom. And so we're going to pop up the pictures. So just tell us how you came up with this idea and walk us through the beginning to the actual prom night, Rebecca.
Well, what it was is one of the moms, Anna and Vanessa, were discussing about, not having, it was up in the air about grad, and prom is something that the girls wanted to be a part of. But I think it was more or less that the moms wanted to create a magical night for them to be together, because these girls have been together since middle school, and my daughter's the baby of the thing. She still has one more year. So us moms just kind of through WhatsApp dug deep and came up with ideas and reached out to resources around from friends and family, and it just became a beautiful night for the kids.
My kind of prom too, because no boys.
Well, yes, because we kept it under 10.
Right.
There were 2 boys.
Oh, there were?
Yeah, 2 boys, but you know what? They were very much, we made sure that they weren't sick. We made sure we were just really good about it, sanitizing, all of that stuff. But yes, there were boys, but what is prom without boys?
You're right. I'm just a dad, and so
what was the menu?
Yeah, what was? This looks pretty fancy, Rebecca.
Awesome. Yes, it was fancy. It was a 3-course meal. We had proa, and us moms dished it on the other side of the house, and we would serve it to them. But we always made sure that it was 10 and below inside the house, which was really cool because the kids really weren't expecting it. They knew that us moms together, we come up with magical moments from senior night to 8th grade night. It's just all together. Us 5 moms were just like, our minds just go beyond,
This is really cool. What was the girls' reaction when they found out that you guys were throwing this prom by moms?
I think they were more excited because this is their last send-off. Everyone's going to grow up. They're all 4 seniors. They're all, going into different paths and different, and even with this pandemic stuff, we made it happen for their friends to be together, and us moms being together. It's kind of like our moment, that it was exciting for us to see each other because we're so used to seeing each other at least every other week, talking, and lucky thing for WhatsApp because we are able to keep in contact. But to see someone, and knowing that it could be the last time, you just never know, So it was pretty exciting for them.
Well, that's why we wanted to get you on, to bring you on here and to show how, parents, and we've had a couple of different stories from parents, how they're stepping up and being there for their kids as the kids try and make sense of this senseless time that we're living in. Yes. So we wanted to bring you on and share what you did for the girls along with your girlfriends and let you know that in our eyes you are a COVID hero, Rebecca.
Oh gosh, I encourage all parents to do what they can. Thank you.
Well, God bless you, Rebecca, and wash your hands, okay?
Oh yes, definitely. Have a good day, guys.
You too.
You too.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Aww.
Aww. Goodness, prom.
Isn't that special? That was awesome. So yeah, thank you to Rebecca. Thank you to you guys. Bree, good job today.
Good job, Christopher.
And that's it.
Jason, Joe, sir.
Yeah, Joe, sir, and our digital team. Thank you so much, Joe. Jason, as always. Anything? Any last parting geek words, or you're good?
Data dork. Data dork.
How am I supposed to recover from that?
You just okay.
Okay, bye.
Yeah, like that. Hey, again, on behalf of our sponsors, Calvo Enterprises, Ambrose Inc., Coast 360, the Bank of Guam, and IT&E, this has been another Monday edition of Containing COVID. Again, good job, Sabrina.
Right. Before we go, though, I wanted to say happy birthday to Joan Uggenscharfer.
Yes.
It's her birthday today, and I didn't want to, leave the show without saying that.
Well,
But you know how nice of a person Joan is? Whenever it's her birthday, she gets us like amazing cupcakes or cookies or stuff.
Nice. So we're getting cupcakes today.
Historically, that's been the case.
It's covered. It's covered then.
We would hope so.
Okay, good. Hey, good job again, Sabrina, for our digital team. Thank you guys so much for watching and supporting the KUAM News Takeover, Guam's favorite Containing COVID. Guahusi Chris. Esta Joe.
Bye.